The air in the ceremonial hall tastes like honey wine and broken dreams. Leora stands pressed against the farthest wall, her spine rigid against cold stone, every muscle in her body locked in a desperate battle to hold herself together. The mating ceremony swirls around her like a hurricane of laughter and music and bodies moving in celebration, but she feels none of it. She is underwater. She is suffocating. She is dying in a room full of people who have already forgotten she exists. Her hands tremble at her sides. She curls them into fists, nails biting crescents into her palms, focusing on that small sharp pain because it is the only thing keeping her from completely shattering. The physical sting grounds her, reminds her she is still here, still standing, still breathing even though moments ago her entire world collapsed in front of witnesses who didn't even have the decency to look away. Moments ago, Garrett the wolf she had loved for 3 years, the one she had imagined a future with, the one whose smile used to make her heart stumble stood in the center of this very hall and rejected her bond in front of the entire pack. Not quietly. Not with mercy. Not with even a trace of the kindness he had once shown her when they were alone under moonlight and he whispered promises that tasted like forever. No. He rejected her the way someone might discard trash. With his chin lifted. With his new mate's hand already in his. With words that cut deeper than claws ever could. I, Garrett of the Ashwood Pack, reject the bond offered by Leora. She is not strong enough. Not worthy enough. Not enough, asterisk. Not enough. The words loop in her mind like a curse she cannot break. They echo with every heartbeat, every breath, every second she remains standing in this hall pretending she is fine when she is anything but. Her wolf whimpers somewhere deep inside her chest, a sound of pure agony that no one else can hear. The animal part of her wants to run, wants to flee into the forest and never look back, wants to howl her pain to the moon until her voice breaks. But Leora does not run. She has never been allowed that luxury. Instead, she stands here, back against the wall, watching the ceremony continue as if her heart was not just ripped out and stomped on in front of everyone she has ever known. Watching Garrett pull his new mate close. Watching them dance. Watching the pack celebrate a union that proves what Leora has always feared, that she was never going to be chosen. That she was always going to be the one left behind. That no matter how hard she tried, how much she gave, how deeply she loved, it would never be enough. The hall is decorated in silver and white, traditional colors for the mating ceremony. Moonflowers hang in cascading garlands from the vaulted ceiling, their petals glowing softly in the candlelight. The effect is meant to be magical, romantic. A night where wolves find their forever, where bonds are celebrated, where futures begin. For Leora, it feels like attending her own funeral. The music swells, a traditional melody played on strings and drums that vibrates through the floorboards and into her bones. Couples spin past her, laughing, touching, lost in each other. She watches them through a haze of unshed tears, and every smile feels like another knife. Every kiss feels like proof of what she will never have. Every declaration of love feels like the universe mocking her for being foolish enough to hope. She should leave. She knows she should. There is no reason for her to stay here torturing herself, watching everyone else live the dream that was stolen from her. But her legs will not move. Her feet feel rooted to the stone floor. Some stubborn, self-destructive part of her cannot look away from the wreckage of her own hope. Her chest tightens, ribs constricting around lungs that suddenly cannot get enough air. The room feels too small, too hot, too full of people whose happiness highlights her misery. She presses harder against the wall, wishing she could disappear into it, wishing she could become invisible, wishing she had never come here at all. But she had to come. Pack law required it. Every unmated wolf attends the mating ceremony. Every unmated wolf stands in the hall and waits for the possibility of a bond, for the chance that tonight might be the night fate chooses them. Leora had stood here with her heart in her throat, knowing Garrett would be here, hoping against all reason that he would see her and remember what they had, that he would choose her, that he would prove her fears wrong. Instead, he proved every terrible thing she had ever believed about herself. Not strong enough. Not worthy enough. Not enough. The rejection did not just break her heart. It confirmed her deepest terror, that she is fundamentally flawed, fundamentally unlovable, fundamentally wrong in some way she cannot fix. She has always been on the edges of the pack. Always a little too quiet, a little too soft, a little too different. Her wolf is smaller than most. Her strength is nothing impressive. She has no remarkable skills, no notable lineage, no claim to status. She is simply Leora. And apparently, simply Leora is not enough. Garrett's new mate is everything Leora is not. Tall where Leora is small. Commanding where Leora is gentle. Bold and fierce and powerful. A warrior. A daughter of the pack's most respected family. The kind of mate an ambitious wolf would choose if he cared more about status than love. Leora had known, deep down, that she could never compete with that. She had known that whatever she and Garrett had shared in private would never survive the harsh light of public scrutiny. But knowing did not prepare her for the humiliation of watching it happen. Did not prepare her for the way the pack looked at her with pity, with second-hand embarrassment, with relief that they were not her. A tear escapes before she can stop it, sliding hot down her cheek. She swipes it away quickly, desperately, praying no one noticed. The last thing she needs is someone coming over to comfort her, to tell her it will be okay, to offer sympathy that will only make the shame worse. She does not want to be pitied. She wants to disappear. More couples join the dance floor. The celebration grows louder, wilder, more joyous. Someone calls out a blessing to the moon goddess. Someone else laughs so brightly it sounds like music. The happiness in the room is suffocating. It presses against Leora from all sides, a physical weight she cannot escape. Her vision blurs. More tears threaten to fall. She blinks hard, tilts her head back against the stone, stares up at the ceiling and wills herself not to cry. Not here. Not now. Not in front of them. But the pain is too big. It is too much. It is swallowing her whole. And then, like a dam breaking, the words slip out. A whisper so quiet it is barely a sound, meant for no one but herself, a confession she makes to the universe because she cannot keep it inside anymore. Why am I never enough? Asterisk. The question hangs in the air for a heartbeat. 2. 3. Leora does not expect an answer. She does not expect anyone to hear. The hall is too loud, too chaotic, too full of noise. Her whisper is nothing. A drop of water in an ocean. A single breath in a storm. But someone does hear. She feels it before she sees him. A shift in the energy around her. A presence that was not there a moment ago. The air changes, becomes heavier, charged with something she cannot name. The hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Her wolf, quiet and broken just seconds ago, suddenly stirs with sharp awareness. Slowly, Leora lowers her gaze from the ceiling. And there, standing a few paces away, half hidden behind one of the stone pillars that line the hall, is a man watching her. Her breath catches. He is not someone she recognizes. Not a member of her pack. Not anyone she has ever seen before. She would remember him. Everyone would remember him. He is tall, broad-shouldered, built like a wolf who has fought and survived and conquered. His hair is dark, almost black, falling slightly into eyes that gleam even in the dim candlelight. He wears simple clothes, nothing fancy, nothing that marks him as anyone important. A traveler, maybe. A wanderer. Someone passing through who stopped to witness the ceremony. But the way he looks at her is anything but casual. His gaze is intense, focused, unwavering. Not with pity. Not with the uncomfortable sympathy she has seen on so many faces tonight. But with something else. Something deeper. Something that makes her heart stutter in her chest for reasons she does not understand. He looks at her as if he sees her. Not the rejected wolf. Not the girl who is not enough. But her. Leora. The person beneath the pain. And the expression on his face is not what she expects. It is not curiosity. It is not amusement. It is not indifference. It is tenderness. Raw, unguarded tenderness that steals the breath from her lungs and makes her forget, just for a second, where she is and what just happened to her. He heard her. He heard her whisper in a room full of noise, and something about it reached him. Something about her pain called to him. She can see it in his eyes, in the way his jaw tightens, in the way his hands curl into loose fists at his sides, as if he is restraining himself from doing something. Leora does not know what to do, does not know how to react. She should look away, should ignore him, should focus on getting through this night and then never thinking about it again. But she cannot look away, because for the first time all night, someone is looking at her like she matters. Like her pain is real and important and worth noticing. Like she is not invisible. The music swells again. Another dance begins. The crowd shifts and moves, bodies swirling between them, breaking their line of sight for a moment. When the path clears, he has moved closer. Not much. Just a step. Maybe two. But enough that she can see him better now. Can see the sharp lines of his face, the intensity in his dark eyes, the tension in his shoulders. He looks like he is warring with himself. Like he is trying to decide something. Like he is on the edge of a choice that will change everything. Leora's heart pounds. She does not know this man. Has no reason to trust him. No reason to believe that his attention is anything but a passing curiosity. And yet, something in her responds to him. Something primal and instinctive, something deeper than logic or reason. Her wolf, wounded and aching, lifts its head and pays attention. The stranger's eyes do not leave hers. Even as the celebration continues around them, even as the hall fills with laughter and music and joy, he stands there watching her as if nothing else exists. As if she is the only thing in the room worth his focus. And then, slowly, deliberately, he steps out from behind the pillar. The movement is careful, intentional. He does not rush toward her, does not make a scene. He simply walks through the crowd with the kind of quiet confidence that makes people step aside without realizing they are doing it. Makes space for him without question. Leora's pulse races. Her instinct screams at her to run. To protect herself. To not let anyone get close because closeness only leads to pain. But her body will not obey. She stands frozen against the wall, watching him approach, unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to do anything but wait. He stops a respectful distance away, close enough to speak without shouting, far enough that she does not feel trapped. His gaze sweeps over her face, taking in the tear tracks she could not fully hide, the trembling hands, the way she is holding herself together by sheer force of will. And when he speaks, his voice is low and rough and meant only for her. The words he says are not what she expects. They are not generic comfort or empty platitudes or well-meaning lies. They are not the things people say when they do not know what else to offer. He tells her she is more than enough. That her heart is the most extraordinary thing in the room. That whatever happened to make her believe otherwise was a lie, and he can see the truth of her even if no one else can. He tells her this with a certainty that shakes her foundation. With a conviction that makes her want to believe him even though every part of her screams that she should not. That she should not trust this stranger, should not let his words matter, should not let hope bloom again when it has only ever led to devastation. But it is too late. His words are already inside her, burrowing deep, planting seeds in the wasteland of her heart. Leora stares at him, this man who appeared out of nowhere, who heard her whispered agony and responded not with pity, but with recognition. Her throat is tight. Her eyes burn with fresh tears, but these feel different. These are not tears of shame or humiliation. These are tears of something she thought she had lost forever. Relief. Validation. The smallest, most fragile spark of hope. The stranger watches her cry and does not look away. Does not flinch. Does not tell her to stop or to be strong or to pull herself together. He simply stands there, solid and steady, letting her feel what she feels without judgment. And then, before she can find words to respond, before she can ask who he is or why he cares or what he wants, he does something that changes everything. He extends his hand toward her. Not demanding. Not presumptuous. Just offering. Offering her a choice. Offering her a way out of this moment of pain. Offering her something she did not know she needed until she saw it. Leora looks at his hand. Strong, scarred, steady. The hand of a wolf who has fought battles and survived. The hand of someone who knows what it means to hurt and keep going anyway. Her own hand trembles as she lifts it. She hesitates, fingers hovering in the space between them, her mind racing with 1,000 questions and fears and what-ifs. But her heart is louder than her fear. Slowly, tentatively, she places her hand in his. His fingers close around hers, warm and firm and gentle all at once. The touch sends a jolt through her entire body, a shock of sensation that has nothing to do with static and everything to do with connection, with recognition, with something fundamental clicking into place. Her wolf does not just stir. It awakens. Fully. Completely. For the first time in her life, Leora feels her wolf rise inside her with absolute certainty, with absolute clarity, with absolute knowing. This is important. This moment. This man. This choice. The stranger's eyes widen slightly, just for a second, as if he feels it too. As if the same recognition is flooding through him. And then his expression shifts, becomes something fierce and protective and possessive in a way that should frighten her but does not. He holds her hand like it is precious. Like she is precious. And then, still holding her gaze, still anchoring her with his presence, he steps to her side and turns to face the room. Faces the pack that rejected her. Faces the ceremony that broke her. Faces the world that told her she was not enough. Standing beside her. Not in front of her, not overshadowing her, but with her. Claiming a place at her side as if it is the most natural thing in the world. As if he belongs there. As if he has always belonged there. Whispers start at the edges of the room. A few people notice. Then more. Then more. The music continues, but attention shifts, curiosity spreading like ripples in water. Who is this stranger? Why is he with Leora? What is happening? Leora's heart hammers so hard she thinks it might break through her ribs. She does not understand what is happening. Does not understand why this man is doing this. Does not understand what he wants or what he sees in her or why he chose this moment to reveal himself. But she knows, with a bone-deep certainty that defies explanation, that her life just changed. That nothing will ever be the same. That this man, this stranger, this wolf who heard her pain and answered it, is about to turn her world upside down. And somewhere in the chaos of her thoughts, somewhere beneath the fear and confusion and fragile hope, a small voice whispers a truth she is not ready to accept. This is not a rescue. This is fate. This is destiny. This is the universe answering a question she did not even know she was asking. The stranger's hand tightens on hers, just slightly, a silent reassurance. And when he looks down at her again, there is a promise in his eyes that makes her believe, just for a moment, that maybe she was always enough. Maybe she was just waiting for someone who could see it. If you have ever felt invisible, if you have ever whispered a pain you thought no one would hear, then stay with this story. Because what happens next will prove that the right person does not just hear you, they find you in your darkest moment and refuse to let you face it alone. This is where everything changes. And you will not want to miss what comes next. The whispers spread like wildfire through dry grass. At first, just a few voices at the edges of the crowd. Curious glances. Heads turning. Then more. Then the music falters, the musicians losing their rhythm as their attention shifts to the far wall where Leora stands with her hand clasped in the stranger's grip. The dancers slow. The laughter dims. The entire ceremonial hall begins to reorient itself around this new focal point, this unexpected disruption to the carefully orchestrated celebration. Leora feels the weight of every eye in the room turning toward her, and panic claws up her throat. This is attention she does not want. Attention she cannot handle. She has spent the entire night trying to be invisible, trying to disappear into the walls, trying to survive this ceremony without further humiliation. And now this man, this stranger, has made her the center of everything. Her instinct screams at her to pull her hand away, to step back, to run. But his fingers are steady around hers, warm and grounding, and some part of her, some desperate, aching part, cannot let go. Because in this moment, He is the only solid thing in a world that has turned to quicksand beneath her feet. The stranger seems entirely unbothered by the attention. He stands beside her with a calm that borders on regal, his posture relaxed, but his presence commanding. He does not fidget, does not shift his weight, does not show even a flicker of uncertainty. He simply exists in this space with absolute confidence, as if he has every right to be here, every right to hold her hand, every right to claim this moment. And that confidence is both terrifying and intoxicating. Leora's wolf paces inside her chest, agitated and alert and strangely thrilled. The animal instinct recognizes something in this man that her human mind is still struggling to process. Recognizes power, dominance, strength that goes bone deep. But also something else. Something wounded and lonely and searching. Her wolf does not just accept his presence. It craves it. Garrett pushes through the crowd, his new mate trailing behind him. His face is twisted with irritation and confusion, brows drawn together, jaw tight. He stops a few paces away, looking between Leora and the stranger with barely concealed contempt. You need to leave. The hall is for pack members and invited guests, not drifters. The words are meant to be dismissive, authoritative. Garrett has always carried himself with the arrogance of a wolf who believes his status makes him important, who thinks his opinion carries weight that cannot be questioned. The stranger does not even look at him. He keeps his gaze fixed forward, his thumb brushing once across the back of Leora's hand in a gesture so subtle she almost misses it. But that small touch sends warmth flooding through her, steadies her shaking, reminds her to breathe. When the stranger finally does speak, his voice is low and calm and carries an edge of steel that makes the air in the room change. I was invited. By the one who matters. The statement is simple, direct, but the implication behind it hits like a physical blow. He was invited by Leora. Her presence, her existence, her worth is enough reason for him to be here. And he says it with such absolute conviction that it sounds like an irrefutable fact rather than an opinion. Garrett's face flushes. You cannot just claim. The stranger turns his head then, just slightly, just enough to fix Garrett with a look that stops him mid-sentence. It is not a glare, not a threat, just a steady, measuring stare that somehow conveys an entire hierarchy in a single glance. The look of a predator acknowledging prey. The look of someone who has faced down real threats and found this one laughably insignificant. Garrett actually takes a step back. His wolf recognizes something his human pride refuses to admit. Recognizes a dominance that eclipses his own. Recognizes danger. The stranger returns his attention to Leora, dismissing Garrett as if he is not worth another second of thought. And the casual, effortless nature of that dismissal is more humiliating than any insult could have been. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. People press closer, trying to hear, trying to understand what is happening. Trying to figure out who this man is and why he is defending the girl they all saw rejected less than an hour ago. Leora's heart races. Her mind spins with questions she does not know how to ask. Who is he? Why is he doing this? What does he want from her? Nothing in her life has prepared her for this moment, for this attention, for this man who appeared out of nowhere and upended everything. The stranger seems to sense her spiraling thoughts. He leans down slightly, just enough that his voice reaches her ears and no one else's. Breathe. I have you. You are safe. For simple sentences. But the way he says them, the absolute certainty in his tone, makes her believe him. Makes her lungs expand with a full breath for the first time since Garrett's rejection. Makes her feel, impossibly, like she might actually survive this night. Who are you? The question slips out before she can stop it, barely a whisper, meant only for him. His eyes meet hers, and up close like this, she can see they are not just dark but a deep, rich amber that seems to glow in the candlelight. Wolf eyes. Ancient eyes. Eyes that have seen things she cannot imagine. Someone who has been looking for you without knowing it. The answer is cryptic. Confusing. But the raw honesty in his voice, the vulnerability flickering beneath his controlled exterior, stops her from questioning further. Because whatever he means, he believes it. She can see that truth written in every line of his face. The crowd parts as someone else approaches. Elder Morna, one of the pack's most respected council members, her white hair braided intricately, her expression stern and assessing. She carries authority that even Garrett cannot claim, and when she speaks, people listen. This is highly irregular. The mating ceremony has protocols. You cannot simply walk in and disrupt. I am not disrupting. I am claiming. The stranger's voice cuts through her objection with quiet finality. He lifts his free hand, and for the first time, Leora notices the ring on his finger. It is simple in design but made of metal that seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. Etched into the band are symbols she does not recognize, ancient markings that seem to pulse with their own energy. Elder Morna's eyes widen. The color drains from her face. She stumbles back a step, her hand flying to her chest, her breath catching audibly. The reaction sends shockwaves through the room. If Elder Morna, who has faced down rogue packs and challenged alphas and never shown an ounce of fear in her 70 years, is shaken, then whoever this man is, he is far more than a simple traveler. No, that is impossible. You should not be here. Why would you? Because I heard her. 3 words. But the way he says them silences every voice in the hall. The way he says them makes it sound like the most important reason in the world. Like her whispered pain was a call he could not ignore. Like fate itself conspired to put him in this room at this exact moment. Elder Morna's gaze shifts to Leora, and for the first time all night, there is no pity in the old woman's eyes. There is shock. And something that looks almost like fear. Child, do you know who you are standing beside? Leora shakes her head mutely. She has no idea. No clue. She only knows that his hand in hers feels like the first safe thing she has touched in years. The stranger, though Leora is beginning to suspect that calling him a stranger might be dangerously inaccurate, turns to address the room. His voice is not loud, but it carries to every corner of the hall with a resonance that makes her bones vibrate. My name is Erix. I am the Alpha King of the Northern Realm. I came here in disguise, seeking respite from court, seeking a night where I could walk among my people without ceremony or expectation. I came to observe, not to participate. The hall erupts. Gasps and shouts and denials and exclamations of shock. The Alpha King. Here. In their small pack's territory. At their ceremony. Disguised as no one. It is unthinkable. Impossible. The Alpha King does not leave his fortress. Does not mingle with common wolves. Does not attend ceremonies in remote packs. And yet here he stands. Erix, because now she has a name for him. Now he is real and concrete and terrifyingly significant, waits for the noise to die down. He does not demand silence. Does not raise his voice. He simply stands there with Leora's hand in his, radiating a patience that suggests he could wait all night if necessary, and it would not bother him in the slightest. Slowly, the room quiets. Wolves sink into instinctive submission postures without even realizing they are doing it. Heads lower. Eyes avert. The primal hierarchy that governs their kind asserts itself, and every wolf in the room acknowledges, whether they want to or not, that they're in the presence of the apex predator. The ultimate alpha. Everyone except Leora, who is still staring at him with wide eyes and a mind that cannot quite process what she is hearing. The Alpha King. She is holding hands with the Alpha King, the most powerful wolf in the entire realm. The ruler of territories that span distances she cannot even imagine. The subject of 1,000 stories and legends and whispered tales. And he is here. With her. Because he heard her whisper. Erix continues, his voice steady and measured, speaking to the room but somehow making it feel like he is speaking only to her. I came seeking nothing but a few hours of peace. A glimpse of the joy and connection that seems so effortless for others. A reminder of what it feels like to be part of something rather than apart from everything. There is pain in his words. Carefully controlled, carefully masked, but there. Pain and loneliness and exhaustion that resonates with something deep in Leora's chest. Because she understands. She understands what it feels like to be apart. To be separate. To watch others connect and celebrate and belong while you stand on the outside looking in. She understands what it means to be lonely in a room full of people. His fingers tighten around hers, and she realizes with a start that she has squeezed his hand without meaning to. A gesture of comfort, of solidarity, of shared understanding. Eric's does not release her immediately. He holds her there in the center of the ceremonial hall with the entire pack watching, holds her like she is something he has been searching for his whole life, and now that he has found her, he cannot bear to let go. His arms are solid around her, his chin resting lightly on top of her head, his presence wrapping her in a cocoon of warmth and safety that feels foreign and intoxicating and terrifying all at once. Leora's mind spins. Her heart races. Her wolf thrums with contentment, with satisfaction, with a rightness that makes no logical sense. She should be afraid, should be questioning, should be pulling away and demanding answers and protecting herself from whatever this is, whatever storm she has just walked into. But she does not pull away, because for the first time in longer than she can remember, she feels like she can breathe. Like the crushing weight that has been sitting on her chest for years has lifted just enough to let air into her lungs. Like maybe, just maybe, she is allowed to have this moment before reality comes crashing back down. The pack remains frozen in shock, a tableau of stunned faces and wide eyes and mouths hanging open in disbelief. Garrett looks like he has aged 10 years in 10 minutes, his confident arrogance replaced by pale uncertainty. His new mate whispers something urgent in his ear, but he does not seem to hear her. He is staring at Leora with an expression she cannot quite read. Regret, maybe. Or disbelief. Or the dawning realization that he made a catastrophic mistake. Leora does not care what he feels. For the first time since she loved him, she genuinely does not care. Elder Morna recovers first, her composure sliding back into place like armor. She bows deeply to Eric's, a gesture of respect and submission that sends another ripple of shock through the watching wolves. When she speaks, her voice carries the weight of ritual and tradition. Alpha King, you honor us with your presence. We offer our territory and our resources for as long as you choose to stay. And we recognize your claim. Leora is under your protection. Your bond is witnessed and acknowledged. Eric's inclines his head in acceptance, but does not release Leora. His hand moves in slow, soothing circles on her back, a gesture so gentle it makes her throat tight. When he finally speaks, his voice is quiet enough that only she and those closest can hear. We will leave soon. I do not wish to disrupt your ceremony further, and she needs space away from this. Away from the stairs. Away from the whispers. Away from the pack that rejected her and is now scrambling to reconcile their dismissal with the fact that the Alpha King chose her. Leora should protest. Should say something. Should explain that she cannot just leave, that she has responsibilities, that she has a life here even if it is small and unimportant. But the truth is, she does not want to stay. Does not want to spend another second in this hall surrounded by people who looked at her with pity an hour ago and now look at her with envy and confusion and calculation. She wants to disappear. And Eric's is offering her exactly that. He pulls back just enough to look down at her, his amber eyes searching her face. Are you all right? Can you walk? The questions are practical, grounding. She nods, not trusting her voice, and he accepts the gesture without pushing for more. His hand slides down her arm to reclaim her fingers, lacing them with his in a hold that is becoming familiar far too quickly. Then we go. He turns toward the main doors, keeping Leora tucked against his side, and the crowd parts like water before them. No one dares block their path. No one dares question. They simply stand and watch as the Alpha King walks out of their ceremony with the girl they all overlooked, the girl who is not good enough for Garrett, but is apparently exactly enough for royalty. The night air hits Leora's face like a blessing. Cool and clean and free of the suffocating press of bodies and emotions. She gulps it down, filling her lungs, letting the chill clear some of the fog from her mind. The moon hangs heavy and full overhead, bathing everything in silver light that makes the world feel unreal. Dreamlike. as if she has stepped out of her life and into some fairy tale that cannot possibly last. Eric's leads her away from the hall, down a stone path that winds through the pack's central grounds. He seems to know where he is going despite claiming he is a visitor, his steps confident and sure. They pass the main gathering fire, now abandoned because everyone is at the ceremony. They pass the training grounds, empty and silent in the moonlight. They pass the border of the residential area and enter the forest proper, where the trees close in and the world becomes something ancient and wild. Only then does he stop. They are in a small clearing, a circle of grass surrounded by towering pines. A stream runs nearby, the sound of water over stones providing a gentle soundtrack. The moonlight filters through the branches above, creating patterns of light and shadow that shift with the breeze. It is peaceful, private, safe. Eric's releases her hand and takes a step back, giving her space, watching her with an intensity that makes her hyper-aware of every breath, every movement, every beat of her heart. You can speak freely here. Ask me anything. Yell at me if you need to. I know this has been overwhelming. The understatement of the century. Overwhelming does not begin to cover what Leora is feeling. But now that they're alone, now that the performance is over and it is just the two of them in the quiet forest, reality begins to seep back in. And with reality comes the questions, the doubts, the fear. Why? The word comes out hoarse, barely more than a whisper. Why would you do that? Why would you claim someone you do not know? Why would you upend your entire life for a stranger? Eric's is quiet for a long moment, his gaze never leaving her face. When he speaks, his voice is low and raw and achingly honest. Because I know what it feels like to ask that question. Why am I not enough? I have asked it 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways. Asked it every time I sat on a throne surrounded by advisors who see me as a tool, not a person. Every time I attended a gathering and watched wolves dance and laugh and connect while I remained apart because no one approaches a king like he is just a man. Every time I looked in the mirror and saw a title instead of a soul. He takes a breath, and she can see the pain etched in the lines of his face, the exhaustion that comes from carrying weight no one else can see. I came here tonight to escape that. To remember what it felt like to be ordinary, even if just for a few hours. And then I heard you. Heard your pain. And it was like hearing my own voice reflected back at me. And I could not let you believe that lie. Could not let you stand there thinking you were not enough when I could see so clearly that you are extraordinary. His words land like stones in still water, sending ripples through her entire being. She wants to believe him. Wants so desperately to believe that this is real, that he means it, that she is not just a project or a distraction or a momentary impulse he will regret in the morning. But belief is dangerous. Hope is dangerous. She has learned that lesson too many times. You do not know me. The statement is not accusatory, just factual. You do not know what I am. What I have done. Why the pack keeps me at a distance. Now it is Eric's turn to look curious, his head tilting slightly. Tell me. And there it is. The moment she has been dreading. The moment where she has to decide whether to trust this man, this stranger, this king with the truth about herself. The truth she has spent years hiding, years burying, years pretending does not exist. Her hands tremble. She clasps them together to still the shaking, but it does not help. The tremor goes deeper than muscle and bone. It is the tremor of fear, of shame, of secrets that have festered in darkness for so long she does not know if she can bear to bring them into light. But Eric's is waiting, patient and steady and unbothered by the silence, giving her the space to choose what she shares and what she keeps. And somehow, that patience is what breaks her. The words come slowly at first, hesitant and halting, like she is learning to speak a language she has not used in years. I was not always like this. Not always quiet and small and forgettable. There was a time when I was different. When I had something inside me that scared people. That made them look at me like I was dangerous. She risks a glance at Eric's. He has not moved, has not reacted, is simply listening with complete focus. It gives her the courage to continue. When I was 12, something changed. My wolf emerged early, which is unusual but not unheard of. But when I shifted for the first time, it was not normal. My wolf was not the brown or gray or black that runs in my bloodline. She was white. Pure white. Like moonlight given form. The memory rises unbidden, vivid and painful. She can still remember the gasps, the way her mother's face went pale, the way her father took a step back like she had become something unrecognizable. The way the pack looked at her not with celebration but with fear. White wolves are rare. So rare that most wolves live their entire lives without seeing one. And in the old stories, the ancient legends, white wolves are always significant. Always powerful. Always touched by something beyond the ordinary world. They are prophesied wolves. Wolves of destiny. Wolves who change the course of history. And in the old stories, they are also dangerous. Cursed. Bringers of destruction as often as salvation. Her voice drops to barely a whisper, the shame of the memory burning in her chest. The elders were afraid. They said I was marked. That I carried something that did not belong in our small pack. That I was too much, too powerful, too different. They said I could bring danger to everyone around me if I did not learn to control it, to suppress it, to hide it. The pain of those words, spoken when she was just a child trying to understand what was happening to her, still cuts deep. Still makes her feel like she is fundamentally wrong, fundamentally broken, fundamentally unworthy of belonging. So I learned to hide. Learned to make myself small. Learned to suppress my wolf until she almost disappeared entirely. I stopped shifting except when absolutely necessary. Stopped training. Stopped drawing attention. Stopped being anything that might remind people of what I am. And eventually, they forgot. Stopped being afraid. Started treating me like I was ordinary. Weak. Unremarkable. She laughs, but there is no humor in it, only bitterness. And I let them. Because being overlooked was better than being feared. Being dismissed was safer than being dangerous. So I became exactly what they wanted. Small. Quiet. Forgettable. Not enough. The confession hangs in the air between them, heavy with years of suppressed pain and enforced smallness and a childhood stolen by fear. Leora keeps her eyes fixed on the ground, unable to bear seeing the look on Eric's face. Unable to bear seeing the moment he realizes what he claimed. That she is not some innocent victim, not some simple girl who was unjustly rejected. She is marked. Different. Possibly dangerous. Exactly the kind of complication an alpha king does not need. The silence stretches. 1 heartbeat. 2. 5. 10. And then Eric's moves. He closes the distance between them in 3 strides, his hands coming up to cup her face with a tenderness that steals her breath. He tilts her head up, forcing her to meet his eyes, and what she sees there is not fear or disgust or regret. It is fury. Not at her. For her. They made you ashamed of your power. Made you hide the most beautiful part of yourself. Made you believe that being extraordinary was a curse instead of a gift. His voice is rough with anger, with indignation on her behalf, with a protective rage that she has never experienced directed toward her defense. Leora, listen to me. White wolves are not cursed. They are blessed. Chosen by the moon goddess herself to carry power and purpose beyond the ordinary. The elders who feared you were small-minded fools who could not see past their own limitations. Who could not handle the responsibility of nurturing something rare and precious. So they broke you instead. Made you small because they were too weak to help you grow. Tears stream down her face, hot and unstoppable. His words are cracking something open inside her, something she has kept locked and buried for so long she forgot it was there. Hope. Validation. The possibility that maybe she was not the problem. Maybe they were. Show me. The request is soft but absolute. Not a demand. An invitation. Leora's breath catches. Show me. He wants to see her wolf. The part of herself she has hidden for over a decade. The part she was taught to be ashamed of. The part that made everyone afraid. I have not shifted fully in years. I do not know if I even can anymore. I have suppressed her for so long. Then let her free. Here. With me. Where no one will judge you. where no one will make you feel like you need to be less than you are. His hands are still cradling her face, his thumbs brushing away her tears, his eyes holding hers with an intensity that makes her feel seen all the way down to her soul. I want to see all of you, Leora. Not the version you created to survive. Not the mask you wear to stay safe. You. All of you. The power and the pain and everything in between. Something shifts in her chest. A wall crumbling. A lock turning. A door she thought was sealed forever creaking open just a crack. Her wolf stirs. Not the timid, suppressed creature she has carried for years, but something deeper. Something ancient and powerful and waiting. Waiting for permission. Waiting for freedom. Waiting to be seen. Leora steps back from Eric's, her hands shaking as she pulls off the simple shawl she wore to the ceremony. The night air raises goosebumps on her bare arms, but she barely notices. Her entire focus is internal, reaching down into the part of herself she has kept chained and locked away, speaking to the wolf she has ignored and silenced and hidden. I am sorry. I am so sorry I made you small. I am sorry I was afraid. But if you are still there, if you can still hear me, please, come out. Be seen. The shift starts like a whisper. A tingle along her spine. A warmth spreading through her limbs. And then it is a roar. Power flooding through her veins like liquid fire, like moonlight made tangible, like every suppressed instinct and denied truth exploding outward all at once. She drops to her hands and knees as the transformation takes her. Bones reshaping. Muscles reforming. Skin giving way to fur. The process is not painful, but it is intense, overwhelming, like being unmade and remade in the same breath. And then it is done. Leora stands on 4 legs in the moonlit clearing, her wolf form fully manifested for the first time in over a decade. She can feel the difference immediately. She is not small. Not weak. Not ordinary. She is power condensed into fur and fong. She is moonlight and mystery and everything the elders feared. And she is white. Pure, luminous white that seems to glow in the darkness. Every inch of her fur catches the moonlight and reflects it back, making her look like she is carved from starlight, like she is something not quite real, something touched by divinity. She lifts her head, and her eyes still her eyes, but wild and ancient and filled with knowing find Eric's. He has gone completely still. His expression is unreadable, his body frozen mid-breath, his eyes wide and fixed on her with an intensity that borders on reverence. For a long moment, he says nothing. Does nothing. Just stares. And Leora's heart sinks. There it is. The fear. The realization that she is too much. The regret. He will take back his claim now. Will realize he made a mistake. Will. You are the most magnificent thing I have ever seen. The words are barely a whisper, rough with emotion, and they stop Leora's spiraling thoughts cold. Eric's moves toward her slowly, like approaching something sacred. He drops to his knees in front of her, bringing himself to eye level, his hand extending palm up in a gesture of offering and respect. May I? Permission. He is asking permission to touch her. To come closer. Not taking. Not demanding. Asking. Leora dips her head in a nod, and Eric's hand gently makes contact with her fur. The touch is reverent, wondering, like he is touching a miracle. His fingers thread through the thick white fur, and she can feel the tremor in his hand. Not fear. They were wrong. So wrong. You are not dangerous. You are divine. His other hand comes up, cradling her wolf's face the same way he cradled her human one, and when he looks into her eyes, she sees his truth reflected there. He is not afraid. He does not regret. He does not see her as a problem or a curse or something to be managed. He sees her as extraordinary, as rare, as exactly what he has been searching for without knowing it. And in that moment, something fundamental shifts inside Leora. A truth she has been running from her entire life settles into place with unshakable certainty. She is not too much. She was never too much. She was simply surrounded by people too small to appreciate her magnitude. But Eric's is not small. He is an alpha king. He has faced battles and threats and challenges that would break ordinary wolves. He has carried the weight of an entire realm on his shoulders. He is powerful enough, strong enough, vast enough to meet her power and not flinch. He is her equal, her match, her mate in truth, not just in bond. The realization settles into her bones, and for the first time in her life, Leora allows herself to believe that maybe she is allowed to be everything she is. That maybe hiding was never about safety. It was about fear. And maybe, just maybe, she does not have to be afraid anymore. Erix is still kneeling before her, his hands gentle in her fur, his eyes bright with something that looks like wonder and possession and devotion all tangled together. I will never ask you to be smaller. Will never ask you to hide. Whatever power you carry, whatever destiny waits for you, I will stand beside you and help you claim it. You are mine, Leora. My mate. My equal. My queen. And I will burn down anyone who tries to make you believe you are anything less than extraordinary. The vow is spoken to her wolf, but it reaches her human heart. Reaches the broken places and the scared places and the places that have never believed they deserved protecting. And Leora, who has spent her entire life learning how to be small, begins to remember what it feels like to take up space. He looks down at her, and the mask slips for just a second. Just long enough for her to see the raw vulnerability underneath. The bone-deep loneliness. The weight of a crown he never asked for and cannot put down. The isolation of being powerful enough that no one sees you as anything but a title. And then the mask is back, his attention returning to the crowd. I did not come here intending to intervene. Did not come seeking a mate or a bond or anything beyond a few hours of anonymity. But then I heard her. Heard a question that cut through every wall I have built, every defense I have constructed, every lie I have told myself about being content in my solitude. His voice drops, becomes something raw and honest and utterly compelling. She asked why she was not enough. And I knew, with a certainty I have never felt about anything, that the question itself was a tragedy. Because she is enough. More than enough. She is everything. And the wolf who rejected her is a fool who threw away a treasure he was never worthy of in the first place. Leora's breath catches. Tears burn her eyes again, but these are different from the ones she shed earlier. These are not tears of pain, but of something she does not have a name for. Something overwhelming and terrifying and wonderful all at once. Erix is still speaking, addressing the pack with an authority that no one would dare challenge. I am invoking my right as Alpha King to claim this bond. Leora belongs to me now. Under my protection. Under my authority. Any who wish to challenge this claim may step forward. Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. No one moves. No one speaks. No one is foolish enough to challenge the Alpha King, especially not over a girl they had dismissed as insignificant minutes ago. Garrett looks like he has been turned to stone, his face pale, his new mate gripping his arm with white knuckles. Elder Morna has tears streaming down her weathered face, though whether they are tears of joy or shock or fear, Leora cannot tell. And Leora herself stands frozen, her world tilting on its axis, trying to understand how she went from rejected and broken to claimed by the most powerful wolf alive in the span of an hour. This cannot be real. Cannot be happening. Things like this do not happen to girls like her. Girls who are too quiet, too weak, too unremarkable. Girls who are never enough. But Erix is looking at her like she is the only thing that matters. Looking at her like she is rare and precious and worth appending his entire life for. And her wolf is singing inside her chest, a wild, joyous song that feels like coming home. The bond. She can feel it now. Thin and new and fragile, but undeniably there. A golden thread connecting her heart to his. A pull she could not resist even if she wanted to. The mate bond that she thought she would never have, that Garrett's rejection made her believe she was not worthy of. It was not that she was not worthy. It was that she was meant for someone else. Someone who would see her. Choose her. Claim her in front of the world without hesitation or shame. Erix raises their joined hands, presenting her to the pack, making his claim visible and undeniable. She is mine. And I am hers. Let any who doubt it witness this. And then he does something that steals the breath from every person in the room. He goes down on one knee before her. The Alpha King, the most dominant wolf in existence, the ruler of the Northern Realm, kneels before a girl everyone dismissed as worthless. Kneels not in submission but in reverence. In choice. In a declaration that her worth is not determined by anyone's opinion but his, and his opinion is that she is worth bowing for. Leora's hands fly to her mouth. A sob breaks free, half shock and half something that feels dangerously close to hope. Eric's looks up at her, his amber eyes blazing with intensity and sincerity, and something wild and possessive and devoted. I know this is fast. I know you do not know me. I know you have every reason to be afraid, to doubt, to question. But I also know that when I heard you ask why you were not enough, something inside me broke. Because I have been asking myself the same question for years. Why am I never enough? Why does the power, the title, the crown never fill the emptiness? Why do I have everything and feel like I have nothing? His voice roughens, becomes something raw and unguarded. And then I saw you. Saw your pain. Saw your strength in still standing when everything in you wanted to crumble. Saw the gentleness you have managed to keep despite a world that has been cruel. And I knew you were the answer to a question I did not know I was asking. He reaches up with his free hand, hovering near her face, asking permission. She nods, barely a movement, and his fingers brush her cheek with a tenderness that makes her knees weak. You are enough, Leora. You have always been enough. And if you let me, I will spend the rest of my life proving it to you. The words wrap around her like a promise, like a vow, like magic. And Leora, who has spent her entire life believing she was forgettable, unremarkable, unworthy, looks into the eyes of the most powerful wolf alive and sees something that changes everything. She sees herself reflected back as someone precious, someone chosen, someone worth kneeling for. The answer rises in her chest before her mind can catch up, before logic can intervene, before fear can stop her. She believes him. Against all reason, against all evidence, against every lesson life has taught her about protecting her heart, she believes him. And when she nods, when she whispers a trembling yes that only he can hear, the bond between them flares to life. Bright and golden and unbreakable. Fate itself snapping into place. Eric's rises to his feet, and the look on his face is pure triumph, mixed with relief, mixed with something that looks almost like worship. He claimed her. And she claimed him back. The room erupts again, but Leora does not hear it. Does not care. Because Eric's is pulling her close, wrapping her in arms that feel like safety, like home, like everything she has been searching for without knowing it. His scent surrounds her pine and smoke, and something wild that makes her wolf purr with satisfaction. His heartbeat is steady against her ear, a rhythm that calms the chaos in her mind. His hand cradles the back of her head like she is something breakable and infinitely valuable. And for the first time in her life, Leora feels chosen. Feels wanted. Feels like maybe, just maybe, the universe has not forgotten her after all. But even in this moment of impossible joy, a small voice in the back of her mind whispers a warning. This is too fast. Too intense. Too perfect. And nothing perfect ever lasts. Leora shifts back to human form as the moon climbs higher, the transformation flowing through her with an ease she has not felt in years. The suppression is gone. The chains are broken. Her wolf settles inside her chest not as something caged and cowering, but as something integrated and whole. A part of her that finally has permission to exist. Eric's removes his cloak and wraps it around her shoulders before she even registers the cold. The fabric is thick and warm and carries his scent pine and smoke and something inherently him that makes her wolf hum with contentment. She pulls it tighter, grateful for the coverage and the warmth and the gesture of care that came without her having to ask. They stand in the clearing in silence for a long moment, the weight of what just happened settling between them. Leora has spent over a decade hiding her true nature, and in the span of minutes, she revealed it to someone who is essentially a stranger. Someone who could use that information against her. Someone who now holds knowledge that could destroy her if he chose. But when she looks at Eric's, she does not see calculation or manipulation or the beginnings of regret. She sees wonder, protectiveness, certainty. And she sees something else. Something that flickers in his eyes like a question he is trying to decide whether to ask. What is it? The words come out softer than she intended, her voice still rough from the shift, from the tears, from the emotional earthquake of the past hours. Eric's hesitates, his gaze moving from her face to the forest around them, and then back again. When he speaks, his voice carries a careful quality, like he is walking through territory that might explode if he steps wrong. How much do you know about the prophecies? The old ones. The legends that predate the current pacts. Leora blinks, thrown by the question. Not much. The elders do not speak of them often. They say the old ways are mostly superstition. Stories told to entertain children. Eric's expression shifts into something that might be frustration or disappointment. Of course they do. Because acknowledging the prophecies would mean acknowledging that power and destiny exist beyond their small understanding of the world. It would mean admitting they do not control everything. He runs a hand through his hair, a gesture so human and unguarded it makes him seem less like an alpha king and more like a man struggling with something heavy. The White Wolf appears in nearly every major prophecy. The Lunar Scrolls. The Song of the First Shift. The Covenant of Starlight. Different names, different stories, but always the same core truth. The White Wolf is marked by the moon goddess herself, chosen to stand at the crossroads of great change, to either unite the fractured territories or watch them fall to darkness. The words land like physical blows. Prophecy. Chosen. Great change. Concepts so vast and impossible that Leora's mind immediately rejects them. She is not that. Cannot be that. She is just a girl who was taught to be small, who hid her wolf for over a decade, who spent tonight sobbing against a wall because she was rejected by a wolf who was not even worth her tears. She is not chosen. She is not special. She is just different. And different is not the same as destined. No. The denial comes out sharp and immediate. No, you are wrong. I cannot be. Those prophecies are about someone extraordinary. Someone powerful and brave and capable. Not me. Never me. Eric's watches her spiral with patience, waiting until her words run out and she is left standing there trembling with fear and denial and the overwhelming weight of implications she cannot handle. Then he takes a step closer, his presence grounding and solid. What if you are exactly who the prophecies speak of, and the only reason you cannot see it is because you were taught to doubt yourself? Taught to believe you were less? What if your entire life has been preparation for something greater, and the pact that tried to diminish you was simply too small to comprehend what you were becoming? The questions burrow under her skin, finding the vulnerable places, the secret hopes she has never allowed herself to voice. But hope is dangerous. Hope leads to devastation. She learned that lesson tonight when Garrett ripped her heart out in front of everyone. I cannot be what you think I am. I have spent years hiding. Years being weak. How could someone like that possibly be chosen for anything important? Eric's hand comes up to cup her face, the gesture becoming familiar, becoming something she is starting to rely on. Hiding is not weakness. Surviving is not failure. You endured a childhood where you were punished for your power. You learned to suppress the most fundamental part of yourself to keep peace. You carried rejection and shame and loneliness and still managed to remain gentle. Still managed to keep hope alive enough that you came to a mating ceremony even though it terrified you. That is not weakness, Leora. That is strength beyond measure. She wants to believe him. Wants it so badly it physically hurts. But belief requires letting go of the armor she has built, the protection she has relied on, the smallness that has kept her safe. Before she can respond, before she can voice any of the 1,000 fears swirling in her mind, Eric's expression changes. He goes still, his head tilting slightly as if listening to something she cannot hear. His eyes shift to the forest beyond the clearing, focusing on something in the darkness. What? What is it? There is something here. Something old. Can you feel it? Leora closes her eyes and reaches out with senses she has kept dormant for too long. At first, there is nothing but the normal sounds of the forest. Wind in the branches, the stream babbling nearby, small creatures moving through underbrush. But then she feels it. A pull, faint but insistent, like a thread attached to her sternum, tugging her towards something deeper in the woods. Towards something that recognizes her and wants to be found. Her eyes snap open. Yes, I feel it. Eric's extends his hand, and she takes it without hesitation. The touch grounds her, gives her courage, reminds her she is not facing this alone. Together, they move toward the pole, leaving the clearing and entering the deeper forest where the trees grow so thick the moonlight barely penetrates. The pull grows stronger with every step. More insistent. More certain. Leora's wolf rises close to the surface, alert and focused, following instincts that predate language or logic. This is important. This matters. This is why they are here. They walk for what feels like both minutes and hours, time losing meaning in the ancient forest. The trees around them grow older, more massive, their trunks wider than houses, their branches creating a canopy so dense it is like walking through a cathedral. The air changes, becomes heavier, thick with power that makes Leora's skin prickle and her breath come shorter. And then the trees part, and they step into a place that does not feel like it should exist in the ordinary world. It is a grove, circular and perfect. The trees surrounding it are impossibly old, their bark covered in symbols that glow with faint silver light. The ground is moss-covered stone, smooth and ancient, arranged in patterns that suggest intentional design rather than natural formation. In the center of the grove stands an altar, a single piece of white stone that seems to generate its own luminescence, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. And above the altar, suspended in the air with no visible support, floats a sphere of pure moonlight. Not reflected light. Not a trick of position. Actual condensed moonlight, swirling and shifting and alive with power that makes the air vibrate. Leora stops breathing. She has never seen this place. Has never heard of it. But something in her recognizes it. Knows it. Has been waiting her entire life to find it. This is a lunar sanctuary. Eric's voice is hushed, reverent, filled with awe. I have read about them in the oldest texts. Sacred places created by the moon goddess herself. Places where the veil between the mortal realm and the divine is thin. Where prophecies are given and destinies are revealed. His hand tightens on hers, and when she looks at him, his expression is a mixture of wonder and something that might be fear. There are only supposed to be 3 in existence. And no one has found one in over 2 centuries. They only reveal themselves to those they are meant to call. The implication settles over Leora like a physical weight. This place called to her. Revealed itself to her. Which means whatever destiny or prophecy or impossible expectation exists, it is real. It is here. And she cannot run from it. Her legs feel weak. Her chest tight. Every instinct screams at her to turn around, to leave, to go back to the simple life where she was small and overlooked and safe. But her feet do not move. Her body will not obey. Because underneath the fear is something else. Something that has been dormant her entire life. Curiosity. Longing. The desperate need to know if there is purpose to her pain. If there is reason for her difference. If maybe, just maybe, everything she has endured was not random cruelty, but preparation for something that matters. Eric's releases her hand, stepping back to give her space. This is yours. Whatever happens here, whatever you discover, it is yours to choose. I will not push. Will not demand. But I will stay. Will witness. Will stand beside you no matter what is revealed. The vow settles something in her chest. Gives her courage she did not know she possessed. She is not alone. Not anymore. Whatever she faces it with someone who sees her and chooses to stay. Leora takes a step toward the altar. Then another. The pull is almost overwhelming now, a magnetic force drawing her forward with inevitability that feels like fate. The symbols on the trees pulse brighter as she approaches, their silver light intensifying until the entire grove is bathed in radiance. When she reaches the altar, the sphere of moonlight descends. Slowly, deliberately, moving with purpose and intelligence that confirms this is not natural phenomenon, but divine intervention. It hovers at eye level, close enough to touch, swirling with energy that makes her skin tingle and her wolf howl inside her chest. And then it speaks. Not with words. Not with sound. But with knowing that appears directly in her mind, bypassing language entirely and communicating in pure meaning and emotion and truth. Child of moonlight. Daughter of prophecy. The one who was hidden so she could survive. The one who was broken so she could be rebuilt stronger. The time of waiting is over. The time of becoming has begun. Asterisk. Leora's knees buckle. She catches herself on the altar, the white stone warm beneath her palms, pulsing with the same rhythm as the sphere. Tears stream down her face, but she does not know if they are from fear or relief or the overwhelming intensity of being seen, truly seen by something vast and ancient and divine. The knowing continues, flooding her mind with images and sensations and truths she cannot fully process. The territories are fracturing. The old alliances are failing. Darkness gathers at the edges, waiting for weakness, waiting for division, waiting to consume. Without unity, the wolf packs will fall. Without a leader who can bridge the divides, the bloodlines will end. Asterisk. Images flash through her mind. Packs fighting each other. Territories burning. Wolves dying by the hundreds as something dark and twisted overwhelms them. Chaos and destruction, and the end of everything her kind has built. You are the bridge. The white wolf who belongs to no single pack, but to all of them. The one marked by the goddess to stand in the spaces between and weave what is broken back together. You are the unity they need. The symbol they will follow. The hope that can turn the tide. Asterisk. No. The word rips from her throat, spoken aloud this time, desperate and terrified. No, I cannot. I am not strong enough. Not brave enough. Not anything enough. You have the wrong wolf. You have to have the wrong wolf. The sphere pulses and warmth floods through her. Not dismissing her fear. Acknowledging it. Holding space for it. And then offering truth in return. Strength is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward despite it. You have been afraid your entire life and still survived. Still remained kind. Still kept hope alive in the darkness. That is the strength that matters. That is the strength that will change everything. Asterisk. More images. But these are different. These are not destruction but possibility. Packs gathering under a banner of white. Wolves from different territories standing together instead of apart. A unity that has not existed in generations, forged not through conquest, but through choice. Through a leader who understands what it means to be cast out, to be different, to be told you do not belong, and who refuses to let anyone else carry that pain. Your rejection was not random. Your suffering was not meaningless. Every moment of pain prepared you to lead with empathy. Every moment of loneliness taught you to see the ones others overlook. Every moment of doubt strengthened your ability to extend grace to those who question themselves. Asterisk. Leora sobs, the sound breaking from her chest like something physical being torn free. Because the knowing is right. Because every terrible thing she endured suddenly has shape and meaning and purpose. Because the universe was not cruel. It was preparing her. But the weight of that preparation is crushing. The expectation is impossible. She is just one wolf. Just one girl who cannot even hold her own pack's respect. How is she supposed to unite territories? How is she supposed to stand against darkness? How is she supposed to be anything resembling a leader when she has spent her life learning to disappear? The sphere descends further, coming close enough that its light bathes her completely. And the final knowing settles into her mind, gentle and absolute. You do not stand alone. The Alpha King is bound to you for a reason. His strength and your compassion. His authority and your understanding. His power and your purpose. Together, you're what the territories need. Apart, you are simply two lonely wolves. Together, you are the future. Asterisk. The light suddenly expands, exploding outward in a wave of pure radiance that washes over Leora like baptism. It does not burn. It does not hurt. It transforms. Power floods through her veins. Not foreign power. not something imposed from outside, but her own power, unlocked and unleashed and finally free. The strength she suppressed, the wolf she hid, the destiny she ran from, all of it surges to the surface and integrates in a way that feels like coming home. She gasps, her back arching, her hands gripping the altar as the transformation completes. And when it settles, when the light fades and she can breathe again, she is not the same wolf who entered this grove. She is still Leora. Still gentle and kind and carrying the scars of her past. But she is also more. She is awakened. She is claimed by destiny. She is the white wolf the prophecies spoke of, and denying it is no longer possible. The sphere ascends back to its position above the altar, its purpose fulfilled, its message delivered. The grove settles into quiet stillness, the symbols on the trees fading to barely visible whispers of light. Leora remains on her knees at the altar, trembling with the aftershocks of revelation and transformation and impossible responsibility. Her mind is too full, her heart too raw, her entire understanding of herself and her place in the world shattered and rebuilt in the span of minutes. Arms wrap around her from behind. Strong and steady and familiar. Eric's pulls her back against his chest, holding her while she shakes, anchoring her to reality while her mind tries to process the divine. I have you. I am here. You are not alone. The words are simple, quiet, but they're everything she needs. Because the knowing was right. She is not meant to face this alone. She has a mate, a partner. An alpha king who is powerful enough to stand beside her, who is lonely enough to understand her, who is devoted enough to have claimed her when she was at her lowest. Together. The prophecy said together. Leora turns in his arms, pressing her face against his chest, breathing in his scent, letting his presence ground her. His hand moves in soothing circles on her back, patient and unhurried, giving her all the time she needs to come back to herself. When she finally lifts her head, when she finally meets his eyes, she sees that he understands. He knows what just happened. Knows what it means. Knows that everything just changed in ways neither of them can fully comprehend yet. Did you see it? Hear it? Know it? Eric's nods slowly. Some of it. Enough to understand that you were just claimed by destiny. That the prophecies are real. That you're exactly who I suspected you were from the moment I saw your white wolf. Fresh tears spill down her cheeks. I do not know how to be what they need. Do not know how to lead or unite or save anyone. I only just learned how to stop hiding. I know. His hand comes up to cradle her face, his thumb brushing away her tears with infinite gentleness. And we will figure it out together. One step at a time. You do not have to become everything overnight. You just have to be willing to try. She wants to argue. Wants to list all the reasons this will fail, all the ways she is inadequate, all the evidence that the prophecy made a mistake. But the words die in her throat. Because looking into Eric's eyes, seeing his absolute faith in her, feeling the bond between them pulse with certainty and strength and rightness, she cannot hold on to the denial. The moon goddess chose her. Destiny claimed her. And whether she feels ready or not, the time for hiding is over. What do I do now? Eric's expression softens, becomes something tender and protective and fierce all at once. Now you rest. You process. You let yourself feel everything you need to feel. And tomorrow we begin. We return to my territory. We gather allies. We start building the unity the prophecy spoke of. But tonight, you're allowed to simply be Leora. The girl who survived. The wolf who awakened. The woman who is mine. The possessiveness in that final word should bother her. Should feel like too much too soon. But it does not. It feels like safety. Like belonging. Like finally having someone claim her not in spite of her power but because of it. She nods, exhaustion suddenly crashing over her in waves. The shift, the revelation, the emotional upheaval of the entire night, all of it hits at once, and she sways on her feet. Eric's catches her, lifts her as if she weighs nothing, cradling her against his chest. I have you. Sleep. I will keep you safe. And surrounded by his warmth, his scent, his steady heartbeat, Leora lets herself surrender to the exhaustion. Lets herself trust that when she wakes, he will still be there. That this is not a dream. That maybe, impossibly, she is allowed to have this. As consciousness fades, one final thought whispers through her mind. The prophecy called her chosen, called her destined, called her the hope of the territories. But right now, in this moment, she is simply a girl being held by someone who sees her worth. And maybe that is enough to start with. Maybe that is exactly enough. Leora awakes to voices raised in anger. Her eyes snap open, disorientation flooding through her for a heartbeat before memory crashes back. The ceremony. The rejection. Eric's. The sanctuary. The prophecy. She is lying on soft furs in a space she does not recognize, wrapped in warmth that carries Eric's scent. Sunlight filters through canvas above her, a tent, she realizes. Temporary shelter erected at the edge of pack territory. But the warmth and safety of waking disappears the moment she processes the voices outside. Multiple wolves. Angry. Demanding. And Eric's voice cutting through them all, controlled but edged with warning. She pushes herself upright, her body protesting with exhaustion that sleep has not fully erased. The events of last night took more from her than she realized. The shift after years of suppression. The emotional devastation and subsequent claiming. The prophecy that rewrote her understanding of her entire existence. Her muscles ache. Her mind feels raw. But the voices outside pull her forward despite the exhaustion. Leora wraps a blanket around herself and moves to the tent entrance, pulling back the flap just enough to see without being immediately noticed. The sight that greets her stops her breath. Eric stands in the center of a semicircle of wolves, his posture deceptively relaxed, but radiating authority that makes the air around him feel heavy. He is still dressed simply, still maintaining the appearance of a traveler rather than a king, but there is nothing simple about the way he holds himself now. Nothing disguised about the power that rolls off him in waves. Facing him are at least a dozen wolves from her pack. She recognizes Elder Morna at the front, her face carved from stone, her eyes hard. Garrett stands to her right, looking uncomfortable but present. Several council members cluster nearby, their expressions ranging from hostile to calculating. And behind them, pack members who came out of curiosity or concern or the scent of drama. This is an ambush. A confrontation that was planned and organized while she slept. Elder Morna's voice carries across the space, formal and cold. You have made a claim that violates protocol and tradition. You have bonded with a member of our pack without seeking permission from leadership. Without going through proper channels. Without honoring the structures that keep our society functional. Eric's response is measured, but there is steel underneath the calm. I am the Alpha King. I do not require permission to claim my mate. And Leora belongs to no pack that treated her as you did. You forfeited any right to her the moment you made her feel worthless. The accusation lands like a blow. Several wolves flinch. Others bristle with indignation. Elder Morna's jaw tightens, but she does not back down. We protected her. We gave her a place when her power could have made her a target. We taught her control when she could have been dangerous to herself and others. You taught her shame. Eric's voice drops, becomes something quiet and lethal. You taught a child that her gifts were curses. That her strength was something to fear. That she needed to become small to deserve basic kindness. Do not stand there and pretend that was protection. That was cruelty disguised as wisdom. Murmurs ripple through the gathered wolves. Some look uncomfortable, shifting their weight, avoiding eye contact. Others look angry, defensive, unwilling to accept criticism from an outsider, king or not. A new voice cuts through the tension. A man Leora recognizes as Counselor Theron, one of the pack's most traditional leaders, steps forward. His face is hard with disapproval, his eyes cold. Regardless of past decisions, the fact remains that you have disrupted a sacred ceremony, claimed a bond without consultation, and are now attempting to remove a pack member from her rightful place. These actions have consequences. Even for a king. The threat is barely veiled. Leora's stomach twists with fear. This is not just a confrontation. This is a challenge. They are testing Eric's, pushing to see how far they can go, how much he will tolerate before his authority demands response. Eric's does not rise to the bait. He simply watches Theron with the patience of a predator who knows the prey is already caught. I am not attempting to remove anyone. I am claiming what is mine. Leora is my mate, my bond, my chosen. And I will be taking her to the Northern Realm where she will be honored as she deserves. As my queen. You can accept this with grace, or you can stand in my way and discover why challenging an Alpha King is a mistake wolves rarely survive to repeat. The words are spoken quietly, almost conversationally, but the promise of violence underneath them is unmistakable. The air grows thick with tension, wolves responding to the dominance display with instinctive unease. Several take unconscious steps backward. Others drop their eyes, unable to hold his gaze. But Elder Morna does not retreat. She stands firm, and when she speaks again, her voice carries the weight of someone playing a card she believes will change everything. You speak of claiming her as queen, of honoring her. But does she even know what she is? What her presence will bring to your territory? To all territories? Eric's goes very still. The kind of stillness that precedes explosion. What are you implying? Elder Morna's expression shifts into something that might be regret or might be righteousness. Leora cannot tell which. The White Wolf is not just marked by prophecy. She is marked by danger. Every historical record shows that where white wolves appear, upheaval follows. War, division, destruction. They are catalysts for change, yes, but change that comes written in blood. Is that what you want for your realm, Alpha King? Is that what you want for your people? The accusation hangs in the air like poison, and Leora feels it sink into her chest like a blade. Because the Elder is not entirely wrong. The prophecy spoke of unity, but it also showed her visions of war, of packs fighting, of darkness consuming territories. And she is supposed to be at the center of it all. What if her presence does not prevent the destruction? What if she causes it? Doubt crashes through her, vicious and familiar. The same doubt that has haunted her entire life. The same fear that made her hide for over a decade. Maybe the elders were right to be afraid. Maybe she is dangerous. Maybe Eric's claimed her without understanding the full cost of what she brings. Before Eric's can respond, another voice joins the fray. Garrett steps forward, and the expression on his face is complicated guilt and defensiveness, and something that might be genuine concern all tangled together. You have known her for one night. One night, and you are willing to risk your entire territory for a bond you cannot possibly understand yet. We have known her for years. We have seen what her power can do when she loses control. Have seen the fear it creates. You are walking into a future you cannot predict with a wolf you do not truly know. Leora's chest tightens. Garrett is talking about the one time she lost control as a child. The one time her shift went wrong and her power lashed out, cracking the foundation of a building and terrifying everyone nearby. She was 12. Untrained. Scared. But they never let her forget it. Never let her prove it was an accident, a one-time mistake born of fear and inexperience. They held it over her like evidence of fundamental wrongness. Eric's turns to face Garrett fully, and the look he gives the younger wolf could freeze fire. You rejected her. You stood in front of your entire pack and declared her unworthy. You have no right to speak about what I know or do not know. No right to question my choices. You had your chance to see her value and you threw it away. Do not stand there now and pretend you are protecting anyone but your own pride. Garrett flushes red, anger and shame warring on his face. His new mate touches his arm, whispers something urgent, but he shakes her off. His voice rises, desperation creeping into the edges. This is not about pride. This is about responsibility. You are the Alpha King. You have duties that extend beyond personal desire. You cannot just claim a dangerous, unpredictable wolf and expect. Enough. The single word from Eric's carries such command that every wolf present freezes. The dominance in it is absolute, undeniable, the kind of authority that bypasses conscious thought and speaks directly to the wolf inside that knows hierarchy and power and who holds ultimate control. Garrett's mouth snaps shut. His wolf forces him down into a half-crouch, submission instinct overriding his human intention. Even Elder Morna's shoulders curve inward slightly, her body responding to the power even as her mind tries to resist. Eryx takes a step forward, and the crowd parts like he is walking through water. Leora is not dangerous. She is powerful. And if you cannot understand the difference, then you are exactly the kind of small-minded, fear-driven wolves who should never have been trusted with someone extraordinary. She is my mate, my bond, my future. And I would raise territories to keep her safe, so do not test me by pretending your concern is anything but thinly veiled prejudice. The declaration should make Leora feel protected, defended, valued. And part of her does feel those things. But another part, the part that has been listening to the accusations, absorbing the fear, remembering the prophecy's visions of war, feels the weight of what Eryx is taking on by claiming her. He is risking everything for a bond that is barely a day old. Risking his territory, his people, his stability. All for her. And what if they are right? What if she brings nothing but chaos and destruction? What if loving her costs him everything? The thought is unbearable. Leora's hands shake where they grip the tent flap. Her breath comes short and shallow. The doubt is not new, but the stakes are. Before, her worthlessness only affected her. Now, it could affect an entire realm. Before she can spiral further, a new presence arrives. The wolf's part as a figure approaches from the forest path, a woman Leora does not recognize. She is tall and striking, dressed in traveling leathers that mark her as someone accustomed to long journeys. Her hair is dark with silver streaks, her eyes sharp and assessing. And the way she carries herself speaks of authority that rivals even Elder Morna's. She stops at the edge of the gathering and surveys the scene with barely concealed disdain. How predictable. A small pack threatened by power they cannot comprehend, lashing out like children afraid of the dark. Elder Morna stiffens. Who are you to intrude on pack business? The woman's smile is cold and sharp as a blade. I am Counselor Astrid from the Western Realm. And I am here because word has already spread that the Alpha King has claimed a white wolf. Word that has reached ears you should be very concerned about. The statement sends a chill through the gathered wolves. Leora's stomach drops. Already? News is spreading already? Astrid's gaze finds Eryx, and she inclines her head in a gesture of respect that is formal but not subservient. Alpha King. I come with urgent news. The other territory leaders have called an emergency gathering. They demand to see this white wolf for themselves, to assess whether she is truly the one from prophecy or simply another pretender. And they demand it within 3 days, or they will consider your claim an act of aggression. An attempt to seize power by fabricating a prophesied mate. The words land like bombs. Leora's mind reels. Other territory leaders. Emergency gathering. 3 days. This is spiraling out of control at a speed she cannot process. Eryx's expression remains carefully neutral, but she can see the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. They demand? Since when do territory leaders demand anything of me? Astrid's expression is grim. Since you claimed a wolf that prophecy says will either unite or destroy the territories. They're afraid, Alpha King. Afraid of what she represents. Afraid of change. Afraid of losing power if the old structures are dismantled. And fear makes even allies dangerous. She pauses, then delivers the final blow. There are already whispers of forming a coalition against you if you refuse to appear. Of declaring your bond illegitimate. Of sanctioning the Northern Realm until you renounce the claim. Silence falls like a weight. The implications are staggering. If the territory leaders unite against Eryx, it could mean civil war. Could mean the very fracturing and destruction the prophecy warned about. And it would all be because of her. Leora cannot breathe. Cannot think. Cannot process the scope of what her existence has just triggered. Elder Morna seizes the moment, her voice cutting through the shock. You see? This is what she brings. Division. Conflict. Danger. You have had her for 1 night and already the territories are on the brink of war. Is this truly what you want? Is she truly worth the price? The question hangs in the air, and Leora feels it like a physical blow. Is she worth it? Is any wolf worth risking everything? She knows the answer. Has always known the answer. No. She is not worth it. Has never been worth it. The tent flap falls from her numb fingers as she steps back into shadow. Her vision blurs with tears she refuses to let fall. This is exactly what she feared. Exactly what she knew would happen if she allowed herself to hope, to believe, to take up space. She destroys everything she touches. Outside, she hears Eric's voice, hard and uncompromising. She is worth every price. Worth every risk. Worth every battle. And I will prove it to anyone who questions it. The fierce declaration should comfort her. Should make her feel valued and protected and chosen. But all Leora can hear is the underlying truth. That loving her means fighting. Means risking everything. Means walking willingly into chaos and conflict and potential destruction. And she cannot let him do that. Cannot let Eric sacrifice his realm, his people, his future for a bond that is too new to be trusted. Cannot let him go to war for a girl who has spent her entire life being told she is dangerous and has just been given evidence that maybe they were right. Her hands curl into fists, nails biting into palms. The pain grounds her, focuses her, helps her push past the emotion into something colder and clearer. She will not be the reason territories fall. Will not be the catalyst for the destruction the prophecy showed her. Will not let Eric's lose everything because he heard her whisper in a moment of weakness. There is a way out. There has to be a way out. If she leaves, if she disappears before the gathering, before the confrontation, before this spirals further than Eric's can claim the bond was a mistake. Can say she was unstable, unreliable, not who he thought. Can distance himself and protect his realm. It will hurt. Will shatter the fragile hope she allowed to bloom. Will confirm every terrible thing she has ever believed about herself. But it will keep him safe. Will keep the territories from war. Will prove that she can do one thing right even if she has done everything else wrong. The decision settles over her like ice. Cold and certain and absolutely necessary. She has to leave. Has to run. Has to disappear before she destroys the one person who saw her as something other than a problem to be managed. Outside, the argument continues. Voices rising and falling, accusations and defenses, and the complex politics of wolves trying to navigate prophecy and power and fear. But Leora is not listening anymore. She is gathering the few belongings she has. Is wrapping herself in practical clothes. Is preparing to do the one thing she has always been good at. Disappearing. Her wolf howls inside her chest, a sound of pure anguish and protest. The bond with Eric's pulls tight, screaming at her that this is wrong, that she is supposed to stay, that running is the opposite of what she should do. But Leora has spent her life ignoring her wolf, suppressing her instincts, doing what is necessary instead of what she wants. This is just one more sacrifice. One more time she makes herself small to protect others. One more time she proves that she was never meant to be chosen. She moves to the back of the tent, finding the place where canvas meets ground, where she can slip out unseen. Her hands shake as she lifts the fabric. Her vision blurs with tears she still refuses to shed. And then she hears it. Eric's voice, rising above all the others, spoken with such conviction it reaches her even through the canvas and chaos. I do not care what they demand. I do not care what they threaten. Leora is mine, and I will stand before every territory leader in existence and defend that truth. Let them come. Let them challenge. Let them try to tear us apart. They will fail. Because what we have is worth fighting for. The words are a knife to her heart. Because he means them. Because he believes them. Because he truly would risk everything for her. And that is exactly why she has to go. Before his devotion destroys him. Before her existence costs him the realm. Before love becomes the thing that breaks them both. Leora slips beneath the canvas and into the forest beyond, leaving behind the only person who ever made her feel like she was enough. Because sometimes, loving someone means letting them go. Even when it kills you. Especially when it kills you. The forest swallows her whole, and behind her, she hears Eric's voice still defending her, still fighting for her, still believing in a future she knows they can never have. And Leora runs. runs from destiny, runs from prophecy, runs from the impossible weight of being chosen, runs from the one person who could have made her believe she was worth choosing. She runs until her lungs burn and her legs shake and her tears finally fall unchecked. And even then, she does not stop. Because stopping means facing the truth. That she is not running from danger or prophecy or territorial politics. She is running from hope. And hope is the most dangerous thing of all. Leora makes it less than 2 miles before she hears him coming. Not footsteps. Not branches breaking or leaves crunching. Just the sense of him. The bond pulling tight as a bowstring, vibrating with his pursuit, with his refusal to let her go. Her wolf whimpers and claws at her insides, desperate to turn around, desperate to return to their mate, furious at her human half for this betrayal. She pushes harder, running faster through the dense forest, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Her bare feet, she forgot shoes in her panic to leave slip on wet leaves and catch on exposed roots, but she does not slow down. Cannot slow down. Because if he catches her, if he finds her, she will not have the strength to leave again. Will not be able to do what is necessary. And then suddenly he is there. Not behind her. Not chasing. Simply standing in her path as if he materialized from shadow and sunlight, arms crossed over his chest, expression unreadable. Eric's does not look angry. Does not look hurt. He looks patient. Immovable. Like he has all the time in the world to wait for her to stop running and face what she is trying to escape. Leora skids to a halt, her heart hammering, her body trembling with exertion and emotion, and the overwhelming pull of the bond now that he is close. Every instinct screams at her to go to him, to let him hold her, to surrender to the safety he offers. But safety is an illusion, and she cannot afford illusions. She takes a step back. Then another, putting distance between them even though it feels like tearing her own skin off. Do not. Her voice comes out hoarse, desperate. Do not follow me. Let me go. It is better this way. Safer for you. Safer for everyone. Eric's does not move. Does not argue. He simply watches her with those amber eyes that see too much, that strip away every defense and pretense, and leave her feeling naked and exposed. When he finally speaks, his voice is quiet, devastatingly gentle. Running will not change what you are. Will not erase the prophecy. Will not make you less powerful or less important or less mine. The possessiveness in that final word makes her chest ache. She shakes her head violently, tears already streaming down her face. You heard them. You heard what they said. I bring division. Conflict. War. The territories are already turning against you because of me. Because you claimed me. If I leave, you can fix it. Can tell them it was a mistake. Can protect your realm. Is that what you think? That I would choose my realm over you? Yes. The answer rips from her throat. Yes, because that is what a good leader does. That is what you should do. You have responsibilities that matter more than one wolf who has done nothing but cause problems. Eric's takes a step forward. She takes one back. They move like dancers in some terrible choreography of approach and retreat, connection and resistance. You are not a problem. You are my mate. And if choosing you means fighting the entire world, then I will fight the entire world. Stop. Stop saying things like that. Stop making promises you cannot keep. You have known me for one day. One day, Eric's. That is not enough to risk everything. Not enough to go to war. Not enough to. How long would be enough? The question stops her cold. She blinks at him through her tears, confused. What? Eric's takes another step closer, and this time she does not retreat. Cannot retreat. His presence pins her in place, not with dominance, but with the sheer intensity of his focus. How long would I need to know you before you would believe that I mean what I say? A week? A month? A year? Tell me the timeline, Leora, and I will wait it out. Will prove every single day that you are worth everything I said. But do not stand there and tell me that what I feel is not real just because it happened fast. His voice roughens, becomes something raw and unguarded. I have lived 32 years. Have met thousands of wolves. Have had countless opportunities to choose a mate, to form a bond, to feel something for someone. And I never did. Not once. Not even close. I accepted that I would be alone. That whatever I was searching for did not exist. And then I heard you whisper a question in the dark, and everything I thought I knew shattered. He closes the remaining distance between them, and Leora cannot move, cannot breathe, cannot do anything but stand frozen as he invades her space with a tenderness that feels more dangerous than any aggression. One day, you are right. I have known you for one day. But in that day, I have seen more of your soul than most wolves reveal in a lifetime. Have watched you survive rejection with grace. Have witnessed you shift into your true form after years of suppression. Have stood beside you as prophecy claimed you. Have seen your fear and your strength and your capacity for sacrifice. His hands come up to frame her face, forcing her to meet his eyes, to see the truth burning there. One day, and I know you better than wolves I have lived beside for years. Because you are real, Leora. You do not hide behind masks or politics or pretense. You feel everything deeply and honestly and without apology. And that honesty calls to something in me that has been starving for exactly that. A sob breaks free from her chest. She wants to believe him. Wants it so desperately it physically hurts. But belief feels like stepping off a cliff into empty air, trusting that something will catch her when everything in her experience says she will just fall and shatter. What if they are right? What if I am dangerous? What if being with me destroys everything you have built? Then we will rebuild. Together. The answer is so simple. So absolute. Like he has already considered every possible disaster and decided none of them matter more than keeping her. Fresh tears spill down her cheeks, but Eric's thumbs are there, brushing them away with infinite gentleness. I am not asking you to be fearless. I am asking you to trust me. To let me stand beside you while you figure out what the prophecy means and what you are meant to become. You do not have to do this alone. I do not know how to not do it alone. Alone is all I have ever been. The confession slips out before she can stop it, and the pain in her voice makes Eric's expression fracture. For just a moment, she sees past the alpha king, past the powerful dominant wolf, past the controlled exterior. She sees a man who understands loneliness so deeply it has carved canyons through his soul. I know. His voice drops to barely a whisper. I know what that feels like. To be surrounded by people and still be isolated. To have every interaction filtered through roles and expectations. To wonder if anyone would see you if you did not have the title or the power or the usefulness. He leans his forehead against hers, the gesture so intimate it steals her breath. I have been alone in a crowded throne room. Alone at celebrations meant to honor me. Alone in my own territory, surrounded by wolves who serve me but never truly know me. And I thought that was just how it had to be. The price of power. The cost of the crown. His eyes close, and she can feel the pain radiating from him in waves. And then I heard you. And I was not alone anymore. Because your pain matched mine. Your question was my question. Your loneliness recognized my loneliness. And for the first time in my life, I felt seen. The revelation breaks something open in Leora's chest. Because she understands. She understands exactly what he means. The terrible isolation of being surrounded by people who see only what you represent, never who you are. The exhaustion of wearing masks until you forget what your real face looks like. The soul-deep ache of never being truly known. She has felt it her entire life. And so has he. Different circumstances. Different reasons. But the same essential loneliness. Her hands come up without conscious thought, resting against his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing beneath her palms. The physical connection grounds her, reminds her that he is real, that this moment is real, that she is not imagining the understanding flowing between them. I am afraid. The words are barely a breath. I am so afraid that I will fail. That I will not be what the prophecy needs. That I will let you down. That loving me will cost you everything. Eric's eyes open, and the look he gives her is fierce and protective and absolutely certain. Then be afraid. Feel the fear. Let it exist. But do not let it make your choices for you. Do not let it steal the one thing that could actually be good. One of his hands slides from her face to the back of her neck, his fingers threading through her hair, holding her close, but not trapping her. Always giving her the choice to stay or flee. I am afraid too. Afraid of failing you. Afraid of not being enough to protect you from what is coming. Afraid that the territories will tear us apart before we have a chance to figure out what we could be together. But I am more afraid of living the rest of my life wondering what I gave up when I let you run. The honesty undoes her. Because he is not pretending to be fearless. Not pretending to have all the answers. He is just as terrified as she is. Just as uncertain. Just as vulnerable. And somehow that makes him safer. Because he is not claiming to be her savior. He is offering to be her partner. Her equal in fear and hope and stumbling forward into an unknown future. Leora's resistance crumbles. The fight drains out of her, leaving only exhaustion and longing and the desperate need to stop carrying everything alone. I do not know how to trust. Do not know how to let someone in. I have spent so long keeping everyone at a distance. Then start small. Eric's voice is soft, coaxing, patient. Stay with me today. Just today. Do not think about tomorrow or the gathering or the prophecy. Just be here with me. Let me take care of you for a few hours. Let yourself rest. The offer is so tempting it makes her ache. When was the last time someone took care of her? When was the last time she allowed herself to rest without guilt or fear or the constant vigilance of protecting herself? She cannot remember. Eric seems to sense her wavering. His hand moves in slow, soothing circles on the back of her neck, a touch that is comforting rather than demanding. There is a place nearby. A cabin I stayed in last night before the ceremony. It is quiet, private, safe. Come with me. Let me feed you. Let you sleep properly. Let yourself stop running for a few hours. Every practical instinct tells her this is a mistake. That she should leave now while she still can. That getting closer will only make the inevitable separation worse. But she is so tired. So tired of running. So tired of being afraid. So tired of denying herself every small comfort because she believes she does not deserve them. And maybe Eric's is right. Maybe she can have today. Just one day where she lets herself be cared for, be valued, be wanted. One day before reality crashes back and she has to face prophecies and territory leaders and the weight of impossible expectations. One day to remember what it feels like to not be alone. The decision settles over her like surrender. She nods, barely a movement, but Eric sees it. Relief floods his expression, followed immediately by something tender and possessive that makes her stomach flutter. Thank you. He breathes the words against her forehead. Thank you for trusting me. Even if just for today. He steps back, but only far enough to take her hand, lacing their fingers together in a gesture that is becoming as natural as breathing. And then he leads her deeper into the forest, away from the packed territory, away from the voices and accusations and fear. Toward something that might be safety, might be peace, might be the beginning of learning how to let someone see her without armor. The walk takes perhaps 20 minutes, following a path only Eric seems to see. Leora's feet ache from running barefoot, but she does not complain. Does not want to break the fragile quiet that has settled between them. Eric's notices anyway. Notices the way she steps carefully, the slight limp developing on her left side. Without a word, he stops and sweeps her into his arms, cradling her against his chest like she weighs nothing. Leora's protest dies before it forms because the relief is immediate and overwhelming. She has been strong for so long. Has carried herself through so much. Letting him carry her feels like permission to be vulnerable. To be tired. To be something other than relentlessly independent. She rests her head against his shoulder and lets him take her weight. The cabin appears through the trees like something from a fairy tale. Small and well-maintained, built from dark wood that blends into the forest around it. Smoke curls from the chimney, suggesting a fire already burning inside. The windows glow with warm light, inviting and safe. Eric carries her up the steps and through the door, kicking it closed behind them. The interior is simple but comfortable. A large bed covered in furs dominates one wall. A fireplace crackles opposite it, filling the space with warmth. A small table holds the remnants of a simple meal, bread and cheese and fruit that still looks fresh. He sets her down on the bed with careful gentleness, then kneels to examine her feet. His hands are warm and sure as he checks for cuts or serious damage, his touch clinical but infused with care that makes her throat tight. Nothing too bad. Some bruising. A few small cuts. I will clean them. He moves to a cabinet, retrieving supplies with the efficiency of someone who has tended wounds countless times. Returns with water and cloth and salve that smells of herbs and something faintly medicinal. Leora watches him work, watches the way he handles her with such careful attention, and something in her chest cracks wider. This powerful man, this alpha king who commands territories and holds the lives of thousands in his hands, is kneeling at her feet tending bruises like it is the most important task in the world. When he finishes, he looks up at her, his hands still cradling her feet. Hungry? She realizes she is. Has not eaten since before the ceremony, has burned through energy she did not have with the shift and the revelation and the running. Her stomach answers for her, growling loudly enough to make Eric smile. That expression transforms his face, makes him look younger, less burdened, almost boyish in his amusement. Leora's breath catches because she realizes she has never seen him truly smile before. Has only seen the controlled king, the fierce protector, the intense mate. This glimpse of lightness is intoxicating. Eric's rises and moves to the table, gathering food onto a plate and bringing it back to her. Instead of handing it over, he sits beside her on the bed, tearing off a piece of bread and holding it to her lips. The gesture is intimate, caring, the kind of thing mates do for each other. Leora hesitates for only a moment before accepting it, letting him feed her, letting herself receive this care without protest or deflection. They eat in comfortable silence, Eric's alternating between feeding her and eating himself, his presence warm and solid beside her. The food is simple but good, and Leora feels strength returning to her body with every bite. When the plate is empty, Eric sets it aside and shifts to lean against the headboard, pulling Leora with him so she is tucked against his side, her head resting on his chest. His arm wraps around her shoulders, holding her close, and the position should feel presumptuous or too intimate or too fast. But it does not. It feels safe. Right. Like this is exactly where she is supposed to be. The fire crackles. The cabin creaks gently in the breeze. And for the first time in longer than she can remember, Leora feels her body relax. Feels the constant vigilance ease. Feels the terror quiet to a manageable hum. Can I ask you something? Her voice is soft, tentative, but Eric's immediate response encourages her to continue. Anything. Why were you at our ceremony? Really? You said you wanted to see ordinary pack life, but you are the Alpha King. You could attend ceremonies in your own territory anytime. Why come in disguise to a small, insignificant pack in the middle of nowhere? Eric's is quiet for a long moment, his hand moving in absent patterns on her arm. When he speaks, his voice carries the weight of truth he has not shared with anyone. Because ordinary pack life does not exist in my territory. Not for me. Every event I attend becomes about me. Every ceremony is performance. Every gathering is political. I cannot simply be present. I am always the Alpha King first. The man never. His fingers tighten slightly on her arm. I wanted one night where I was no one. Where I could stand in the shadows and watch wolves celebrate without having to be celebrated. Where I could remember what it felt like to be ordinary. To be lonely in a crowd without the weight of a crown making that loneliness feel like failure. The pain in his voice mirrors her own so exactly it makes her ache. So I disguised myself. Told my guards to let me go alone. Traveled to a territory far enough from mine that no one would recognize me. Walked into your ceremony thinking I would observe for an hour and then leave. Go back to my empty fortress and my isolated life and pretend I was content. He pauses, and when he continues, his voice drops to something almost reverent. And then I heard you. And everything changed. Because you spoke the question I have been too afraid to ask out loud. And I knew I could not leave. Could not let you stand there believing you were not enough when I could see so clearly that you were everything. Leora's eyes burn with fresh tears, but these are different. These are tears of recognition, of being seen and understood in a way that bypasses words and goes straight to soul-deep truth. I thought I was broken. Thought something was fundamentally wrong with me that made me unlovable. Eric's hand moves to tilt her face up toward his amber eyes blazing with intensity. You are not broken. You are extraordinary. And the wolves who made you feel otherwise were too damaged themselves to recognize treasure when it was right in front of them. His thumb traces her bottom lip, the touch gentle but loaded with tension that makes her pulse race. I see you, Leora. All of you. The fear and the strength and the gentleness and the power. The parts you hide and the parts you show. The past that shaped you and the future you could claim. I see all of it. And I want all of it. The declaration hangs in the air between them, heavy with meaning and promise and the kind of raw honesty that leaves no room for misinterpretation. Leora's hand comes up to rest against his chest, feeling his heartbeat thundering beneath her palm. Fast and hard and real. Proof that he is just as affected as she is. Just as vulnerable. Just as terrified of this connection that feels too big and too fast and too important to be anything but fate. I am afraid of wanting this. Afraid of letting myself hope. Then let me hope for both of us. Until you are ready to hope for yourself. The offer breaks her. Because he is not demanding anything. Not pushing her beyond what she can handle. He is simply offering to carry the weight of belief until she is strong enough to carry it herself. And maybe that is what partnership means. Not both people being strong all the time, but taking turns. Carrying each other through the moments when standing alone is too hard. Leora shifts in his arms, turning so she can see his face fully. They are close now. So close she can see the flecks of gold in his amber eyes. Can count the faint scars on his jaw. Can feel the warmth of his breath against her skin. The air between them thickens with awareness. With attraction. With the pull of the mate bond thrumming between them like a living thing. Eric's gaze drops to her lips. His hand slides from her arm to her waist, fingers splaying across her hip with possessive tenderness. The touch sends heat flooding through her, makes her hyper-aware of every point of contact between their bodies. Tell me to stop. His voice is rough, strained. Tell me if this is too much, too fast, too anything. I will stop. Will give you space. Will wait as long as you need. But even as he says it, he does not move away. Does not put distance between them. He simply waits. Giving her the choice. The power. The control. Leora's breath comes short. Her heart races. Every instinct wars between fear and want, between protection and surrender. She has never been kissed with intention. Never been wanted like this. Never had someone look at her like she is precious and powerful and worth claiming. The unfamiliarity terrifies her. But the possibility calls to something deeper than fear. She closes the remaining distance, her lips brushing his in a kiss that is tentative and searching and carries every question she does not have words for. Eric's goes completely still for a heartbeat. 2. And then he responds with a hunger that steals her breath. His hand tightens on her waist, pulling her flush against him. His other hand threads through her hair, cradling her head, angling her so he can deepen the kiss with devastating tenderness. There is nothing gentle about the need between them. But there is everything gentle about how he touches her. How he holds her like she is something breakable and infinitely valuable. How he kisses her like she is oxygen and he has been drowning. Leora loses herself in it. In him. In the sensation of being wanted so completely. Her hands fist in his shirt, holding on, anchoring herself to this moment that feels like falling and flying simultaneously. When they finally break apart, both breathing hard, Eric's rests his forehead against hers. His eyes are closed, his expression something caught between bliss and agony. You are going to ruin me. The words are barely a whisper. You are going to ruin me for anyone else, for any other life, for any existence that does not have you in it. Good. Leora surprises herself with the possessiveness in her voice. Because you have already ruined me for anything less than this. The confession hangs between them, true and terrifying and absolutely certain. They stay like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other, breathing each other's air, letting the bond settle deeper into something neither of them can walk away from even if they wanted to. And for the first time since the prophecy claimed her, since destiny reached down and rewrote her future, Leora does not want to run. She wants to stay. Wants this. Wants him. Wants to believe that maybe she really is allowed to be chosen. Outside, the sun continues its arc across the sky, marking time neither of them cares about. Because in this cabin, in this moment, in this fragile space they have carved out of chaos, they are not the Alpha King and the prophesied wolf. They are simply two lonely souls who found each other in the dark. And for today, that is enough. For today, that is everything. The peace lasts exactly one day. One perfect, stolen day where Leora allows herself to believe that maybe the world will let them have this. That maybe they can exist in their cabin sanctuary while the politics and prophecies and territorial conflicts sort themselves out without them. That maybe, just this once, fate will be kind. She should have known better. The knock on the cabin door comes at dawn on the second day, sharp and urgent and carrying the weight of inevitability. Leora feels Eric's tense beside her where they have been sleeping, actually sleeping, wrapped in each other's arms, no pretense or distance or fear. Just two people holding on to the first real comfort either has felt in years. The knock comes again. Harder. More insistent. Eric extracts himself carefully, pressing a kiss to her forehead that feels like reassurance and apology all at once. Stay here. Let me handle this. But Leora is already sitting up, already pulling on clothes, already bracing herself for whatever storm has found them. Because storms always find her. Peace never lasts. When Eric opens the door, Counselor Astrid stands on the threshold flanked by two guards wearing the insignia of the Northern Realm. Her expression is grim, urgent, and carries none of the professional courtesy from their first meeting. We need to leave. Now. The gathering has been moved up. The territory leaders are convening today instead of in 3 days. They claim they cannot wait. Cannot risk giving you time to prepare her. The last two words drip with implication. Prepare her. As if Leora is a weapon being readied for deployment. As if she is a performance that needs rehearsal. Eric's posture goes rigid. Today? That violates every protocol. We were guaranteed time. Astrid's laugh is bitter. Protocols mean nothing when fear is driving decisions. Half the territory leaders think you have fabricated this bond to seize power. The other half think the White Wolf is real and that makes you exponentially more dangerous. Either way, they want answers now. And they are willing to declare your refusal to appear as an act of aggression. She pauses, her gaze flicking past Eric's to where Leora stands in the center of the cabin, and something that might be sympathy crosses her features. They're afraid, Alpha King. Terrified, actually. And terrified leaders make catastrophically poor decisions. If you do not come willingly, they will come to you. With force. With numbers. And this situation will escalate into exactly the kind of conflict the prophecy warned about. The words land like stones in dark water, sending ripples of dread through Leora's entire body. This is happening. They cannot hide. Cannot delay. Cannot take the time they need to figure out what they are to each other before the world demands they perform it for an audience. How long do we have? 3 hours to reach the convergence point. Any later and you will be in violation of the summons. Eric's jaw tightens, fury and frustration warring across his features. But he knows, just as Leora knows, that they have no real choice. Refusing will only make everything worse. Will give their enemies exactly the ammunition they need to paint them as dangerous, power-hungry, unwilling to submit to any authority but their own. Fine. We will come. But I want assurances. Safe passage. Neutral ground. No ambushes. Astrid inclines her head. You have my word. For whatever that is worth in the current climate. The journey to the convergence point takes 2 hours of hard travel through forest that grows progressively more wild and untamed. They move in tense silence, Eric's keeping Leora close to his side, his hand never far from hers. The guards maintain a respectful distance, but their presence is a constant reminder that this is not a choice. This is a summons. A demand. a test they cannot afford to fail. Leora's mind races the entire journey, cycling through fears and possibilities and desperate plans. What will they ask her? What will they demand? What proof can she possibly offer that she is who the prophecy claims and not just a dangerous anomaly that should be eliminated before she causes harm? She has no answers, no plan, no strategy beyond surviving whatever comes next. The convergence point reveals itself as the trees within a massive clearing dominated by ancient stone structures that predate memory. 7 pillars arranged in a perfect circle, each carved with symbols that glow faintly in the morning light. In the center, a raised platform of white stone that looks disturbingly like an altar, or a stage, or a place of judgment. And surrounding it all, hundreds of wolves. Leora's steps falter. She knew there would be an audience, knew the territory leaders would bring their entourages, but the sheer number of bodies gathered here steals her breath. This is not a private meeting. This is a spectacle, a trial, a public examination where her worth will be weighed and measured and judged by wolves who have already decided she is a threat. Eric's hand tightens on hers. Breathe. I am here. You are not alone. The reminder helps, but only barely. Because looking at the sea of faces, some curious, some hostile, some calculating, Leora feels more alone than she has ever felt in her life. The territory leaders occupy positions around the central platform, each standing before their respective pillars. Leora recognizes none of them, but their power is unmistakable. These are the wolves who control the largest territories, who command the most warriors, who hold the political influence that shapes their entire world. And every single one of them is looking at her like she is either salvation or damnation, and they cannot decide which terrifies them more. A woman steps forward from the eastern pillar, tall and severe, her gray hair bound in intricate braids, her eyes sharp as flint. When she speaks, her voice carries across the clearing with practiced authority. Alpha King Erix, you stand accused of fabricating a mate bond to consolidate power, of claiming a false white wolf to manipulate prophecy for political gain, of putting personal desire above the stability of the territories. The accusations are delivered with cold precision, each one a calculated strike meant to undermine and delegitimize. Erix's expression remains carefully neutral, but Leora can feel the fury radiating from him in waves. I stand accused of finding my mate, of honoring a bond recognized by the moon goddess herself, of protecting what is mine. If that is a crime, then every mated wolf here is equally guilty. The woman's expression does not change. Pretty words, but we require proof. Anyone can claim a bond. Anyone can find a white-furred wolf and declare her prophesied. We need evidence that she is what you say she is. What evidence would satisfy you, Alpha Kira? What test would prove what the bond already confirms? Another leader steps forward, a man built like a mountain, scars crossing his face like a map of violence survived. His voice rumbles like distant thunder. Let her shift. Let us see this white wolf that has caused such disruption. Let us witness whether she carries the mark of the goddess or is simply an anomaly. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Heads nod in agreement. It seems reasonable. If she is truly the white wolf of prophecy, she should be able to prove it. Should be able to shift and show them. Leora's stomach twists. She can shift. Did shift for Erix in the sanctuary. But doing it here, in front of hundreds of hostile strangers, with the weight of their judgment pressing down on her from all sides, feels different. Feels violating. Feels like being forced to bare her soul for an audience that has already decided she is guilty. Erix looks at her, question in his eyes, asking permission, giving her the choice even in this moment when they have so few choices left. Leora swallows hard and nods. What else can she do? Refusing will only confirm their suspicions. Only give them ammunition to use against her. She steps away from Erix, moving toward the center platform with legs that feel like they might give out at any moment. The crowd presses closer, wolves jockeying for better positions to witness, their energy a mixture of anticipation and hostility that makes her skin crawl. When she reaches the platform, she closes her eyes and reaches for her wolf. The shift comes easier now than it did in the sanctuary, muscle memory returning, suppression finally broken. Power floods through her, the transformation taking her swiftly, bones and muscles reforming for replacing skin. She opens her eyes as a wolf, and the clearing goes completely silent. Because she is not just white. In the morning light, with hundreds of eyes witnessing, she is luminous, radiant. Every inch of her fur catches the light and throws it back amplified, making her look like she is carved from moonlight itself, like she is something not quite of this world. The mark of the goddess is visible to a silver crescent moon on her chest that was not there in her human form, that only appears when she shifts, glowing with its own internal light. Proof. Undeniable, irrefutable proof that she is exactly what Eric's claimed. The silence stretches. 1 heartbeat. 5. 10. And then Alpha Kira speaks again, her voice cutting through the odd quiet like a blade. She is white. We can see that. But that does not prove she is the prophesied one. White wolves have appeared before. Anomalies. Mutations. Wolves who brought nothing but destruction. How do we know she is not simply another false sign? Another disaster waiting to happen? The question is a trap. Because there is no way to prove prophecy beyond simply being and seeing what unfolds. But admitting that gives them room to deny, to reject, to declare her false regardless of what their eyes confirm. A new voice joins the conversation and Leora's blood runs cold. She recognizes that voice. Elder Morna steps through the crowd, moving with the slow deliberation of someone who has been waiting for exactly this moment. Behind her, several wolves from Leora's birth pack follow, their expressions ranging from uncomfortable to righteously vindicated. I can speak to what she is. I can provide testimony about the danger she represents. No. The denial rips from Eric's, his voice carrying command that makes several wolves instinctively crouch. You have no authority here. No right to. I have every right. Elder Morna's voice is cold and certain. I raised her, watched her grow, witnessed what her power can do when left unchecked. And these leaders deserve to know the truth before they allow her access to influence and authority. The trap springs shut. Because denying her the right to speak will look like suppression, like hiding dangerous truths. But allowing her to speak will give voice to every fear and accusation that Leora has spent her life trying to escape. Eric's looks at the territory leaders, fury and desperation warring on his face. She is biased. Has spent years making Leora believe she was dangerous instead of powerful. Her testimony is worthless. Alpha Kira's expression remains neutral. Let us hear what she has to say. If her testimony is truly worthless, that will be evident. Permission granted, Elder Morna steps onto the platform where Leora still stands in wolf form. The old woman does not look at her, does not acknowledge her, simply addresses the assembled leaders with the tone of someone delivering unfortunate but necessary truth. When Leora was 12, her wolf emerged as white. We were shocked but attempted to embrace it as a blessing. Attempted to train her, to help her control the power. But she was unstable. Dangerous. Her first full shift cracked the foundation of our ceremonial hall. Her emotions triggered power surges that terrified other young wolves. She could not control it. Could not contain it. The words are factually true but stripped of context. Stripped of the reality that she was a child, untrained and terrified, with no one willing to actually teach her because they were too afraid. Stripped of the truth that every incident was met with punishment and shame instead of guidance. We tried everything, but she remained a threat. So we made the difficult decision to ask her to suppress, to protect her and everyone around her. And she agreed. Spent years keeping her wolf contained. Living peacefully among us. Elder Morna pauses, her expression shifting into something that might be regret or might be calculation. Until the Alpha King arrived and undid all that work. Encouraged her to release what we had spent years helping her control. And now you are asking us to trust that she can wield that power responsibly? That she will not crack more than just foundations when her emotions run high? That giving her influence and authority will not result in exactly the kind of destruction the prophecies warn about? The accusation hangs in the air, poison seeping into the gathered wolves' minds. Murmurs rise, louder now, anxious and hostile. Because the elder has taken truth and twisted it into weapon. Has made Leora's childhood trauma sound like evidence of fundamental danger. Leora wants to shift back. Wants to defend herself. Wants to explain that she was never given a real chance, never given actual training, never given anything but fear and suppression. But her voice does not work in this form. And even if she could speak, would they listen? Or would they simply hear a dangerous wolf making excuses for power she cannot control? Eric steps onto the platform, placing himself between Leora and Elder Morna with protective fury radiating from every line of his body. You punished a child for having power. Shamed her instead of training her. Made her believe she was broken instead of extraordinary. And now you stand here and use that abuse as evidence of her unworthiness? That is not testimony. That is cruelty. Elder Morna does not flinch. I did what was necessary to protect my pack. Just as these leaders must do what is necessary to protect their territories. And the necessary thing is to acknowledge that power without control is danger. That prophecy without stability is chaos. That a white wolf who cannot be trusted with her own emotions cannot be trusted with the fate of the territories. She finally turns to look at Leora, and the expression on her face is complicated regret and conviction and genuine belief that she is doing the right thing all tangled together. I do not hate you, child. But I fear what you represent. And I am not alone in that fear. The clearing erupts with voices. Arguments and accusations and debates swirling in chaotic crescendo. Some wolves defend Leora, point out that the elder's testimony proves nothing about who she is now. Others seize on it as confirmation of their worst fears, as reason to reject her before she has a chance to prove herself. And through it all, Leora stands frozen on the platform, trapped in wolf form, unable to speak, unable to defend herself, watching everything she feared come true. She is dangerous, uncontrollable, a threat. The very things she has spent her life trying to disprove are being declared as fact in front of everyone who matters. Alpha Kira raises her hand, calling for silence. The crowd quiets slowly, reluctantly, but eventually settles into tense waiting. The testimony raises valid concerns. Concerns we cannot ignore. If this wolf is truly prophesied, she must prove not just that she is white, but that she can control her power. That she can be trusted. What are you suggesting? Eric's voice is dangerously quiet. A test. A demonstration. Let her show us that she can wield her power without losing control. Without causing harm. If she is truly meant to lead, to unite, to save us from darkness, then she should be able to pass a simple test of control. The suggestion sounds reasonable. Sounds fair. But Leora can hear the trap in it. Because what test could possibly prove control to people already convinced she is dangerous? What demonstration will satisfy wolves who have already decided she should fail? Eric's must hear it too, because his voice carries warning when he responds. What kind of test? Alpha Kira gestures to the pillars surrounding them. These stones are ancient, connected to deep magic. We will channel power through them, directed at her, and she must withstand it without lashing out. Without losing control. Without letting her emotions trigger a destructive response. That is not a test. That is an attack. It is a controlled demonstration. If she is truly as powerful as prophecy suggests, this should be easy. Uncomfortable, perhaps, but manageable. Unless, of course, the elder is correct and she cannot control herself under pressure. The trap tightens. Refusing makes Leora look weak, afraid, unwilling to prove herself. But accepting means enduring an assault designed to trigger exactly the kind of response they will use as evidence of her danger. Leora shifts back to human form, the transformation rippling through her so she can finally speak. Eric's immediately moves to shield her with his body, but she steps around him, stands straight, and faces the territory leaders with as much courage as she can summon. I will take your test. I will prove that I can control my power, that I am not the threat you fear. Eric's turns to her, anguish and pride and terror warring on his face. You do not have to do this. Do not have to prove anything to them. Yes, I do. Because if I do not, they will always question. Will always doubt. Will always see me as danger instead of hope. She meets his eyes, and the bond between them pulls tight, thrumming with emotion too complex for words. Trust me. Let me do this. The plea is as much for herself as for him. Because she needs to believe she can do this. Needs to prove to them and to herself that she is more than the scared child who was taught to hide. That the prophecy was not wrong. That she can be who she is meant to be. Eric's looks like he wants to argue, wants to grab her and run, wants to burn down this entire gathering rather than let them hurt her. But he also understands what this means to her. Understands that she needs this victory. Slowly, painfully, he steps back. Gives her space. Gives her the chance to prove herself even though every instinct screams at him to protect her instead. Leora returns to the center of the platform. The territory leaders take their positions at their respective pillars, hands raised, power beginning to gather in the air like a building storm. And Eric stands at the edge, helpless to do anything but watch, his expression carved from agony and faith in equal measure. The first wave of power hits like a physical blow. It is not gentle, not a test of endurance. It is an assault, pure and simple, energy channeled through the ancient stones and directed at her with force meant to overwhelm. Meant to break her control. Meant to make her lash out. Leora gasps, her knees buckling, every nerve ending screaming as foreign power crashes against her own. It feels like being torn apart from the inside, like her wolf is clawing to get free, to fight back, to defend against this attack with overwhelming force. But she holds, grits her teeth, forces her power down, forces herself to endure without responding. The second wave is worse, stronger. Carried with the full authority of 7 territory leaders working in concert. It batters against her shields, finds cracks, exploits weaknesses she did not know she had. Pain explodes through her body. Her vision blurs. Blood trickles from her nose as vessels burst under the pressure. And her power rises in response, instinctive and protective, ready to lash out and destroy the threat. No, she will not give them what they expect. Will not prove their fears correct. She shoves her power down with brutal force, containment more violent than release, suppression that costs more than any attack would. The third wave comes before she has recovered from the second. Relentless. Merciless. Designed not to test, but to break. And Leora realizes with horrifying clarity that they do not want her to pass this test. They want her to fail. Want her to lose control so they can justify destroying her before she becomes the threat they have convinced themselves she already is. This is not a test. This is an execution disguised as examination. Her power surges, desperate to protect her, desperate to stop the pain. She can feel it building, pressure reaching critical mass, her control fracturing under assault no one was meant to withstand. And in the crowd, she sees Eric's fighting against guards who have moved to restrain him, sees him trying to reach her, to stop this, his voice roaring protest that is drowned out by the sound of power and pain. The fourth wave hits, and Leora's control shatters. Power explodes outward from her in a shockwave of pure silver light. Not directed. Not controlled. Just released in desperate self-defense. The blast hits the pillars and cracks them. Hits the ground and splits stone. Hits the assembled wolves and sends dozens sprawling. And the clearing erupts into chaos. Screams and shouts and accusations. Wolves scattering or shifting or readying for attack. The territory leaders stumbling back from their pillars, some injured, all terrified. And Elder Morna's voice rising above it all. You see? You see what she is? Uncontrolled. Dangerous. Exactly what I warned you about. Leora collapses to her knees on the platform, trembling with exhaustion and pain and the crushing weight of failure. She tried. She tried so hard to hold back. But they pushed her too far. Designed the test specifically to break her. And now she has given them exactly the evidence they needed. Tears stream down her face as she watches the chaos unfold. Watches wolves looking at her with fear and hostility. Watches the territory leaders regrouping, their expressions hardening into judgment and condemnation. Watch as the prophecy twist from hope into nightmare. And in the midst of it all, one thought echoes through her shattered mind. They were right. The elders were right. I am dangerous. I destroy everything I touch, including any chance of the future I was supposed to save. Leora kneels on the cracked platform, her body shaking with exhaustion and pain, her power still crackling beneath her skin like lightning trapped in a bottle. Blood drips from her nose, her ears, the corners of her eyes, physical evidence of how much the test cost her, of how close she came to completely shattering under the assault. The clearing remains in chaos. Wolves scrambling, territory leaders shouting orders, guards forming defensive perimeters around their alphas. And through it all, the accusations fly like arrows. Dangerous, uncontrolled, a threat, exactly what we feared. She can hear Eric still fighting against the wolves restraining him, his voice raw with fury and desperation, demanding they release him, demanding they stop this madness. But there are too many holding him back, too many who see his bond with her as evidence of compromised judgment rather than proof of her worth. Alpha Kira's voice cuts through the noise, cold and final. The test is concluded. The White Wolf has proven herself unable to control her power under pressure, unable to withstand challenge without destructive response. She is too dangerous to be trusted, too volatile to lead. The prophecy must refer to another. This wolf is not our salvation. She is the very threat we must protect ourselves from. The words land like a death sentence. Because that is what it is. A judgment that will strip her of any chance to prove herself. That will mark her as dangerous for the rest of her life. That will confirm every terrible thing she has ever believed about herself. Leora's vision blurs with tears and exhaustion. She wants to protest, wants to explain that the test was designed to break her, that no one could have withstood that assault without responding. But what would be the point? They have already decided. Already made up their minds before the test even began. This was never about giving her a chance. It was about creating justification for rejection. She should have known. Should have seen it coming. Should have run when she had the chance instead of believing that maybe, just this once, the world would be fair. Movement at the edge of the clearing catches her attention. A ripple of darkness that does not belong. She lifts her head, squinting through tears and pain, trying to focus on what her instincts are screaming is wrong. The shadows at the forest's edge are moving. Not the natural shift of light and darkness, but something deliberate, intentional, alive. And then they pour into the clearing like a flood of living night. Shadow creatures. Dozens of them. Formed from darkness made tangible, with eyes that burn red and teeth that gleam like obsidian. They move with terrifying speed and purpose, flowing around the stone pillars, cutting through the scattered wolves, heading straight for the center of the gathering. Heading straight for the territory leaders. The clearing explodes into different chaos. Not political argument, but visceral terror. Wolves shift in desperate defense. Warriors move to intercept, but the shadow creatures are fast and vicious and seem to multiply even as some are cut down. These are the darkness from the prophecy. The threat that was supposed to come later, that was supposed to give them time to prepare. But they're here now, drawn by the concentration of power, by the gathering of leaders, by the opportunity to eliminate the entire territorial hierarchy in one brutal assault. A creature lunges for Alpha Kira. She shifts mid-dodge, her wolf form massive and powerful, but the creature's claws still rake across her flank, leaving wounds that smoke and blacken as if touched by poison. Another creature tears through a cluster of guards, scattering them, leaving broken bodies in its wake. More pour from the forest. Dozens becoming hundreds. An army of darkness that has been waiting for exactly this moment of division and distraction. And Leora understands with horrifying clarity. This is why the gathering was moved up. Not because the territory leaders were impatient. Because someone wanted them gathered. Vulnerable. Distracted by internal conflict while external threat assembled. This is a trap. And they all walked right into it. She pushes herself to her feet, legs trembling, body protesting every movement. Her power still churns inside her, exhausted but not depleted, ready to respond to threat even after everything she just endured. Eric's has broken free of his restraints, or more likely, his captors released him the moment real danger appeared. He is cutting through shadow creatures with brutal efficiency, his wolf form huge and devastating, but even he cannot be everywhere at once. Cannot protect everyone. A creature breaks through the defensive line, heading straight for a cluster of younger wolves who fled to the edge of the clearing. Children, brought by their packs to witness history and now trapped in nightmare. Leora does not think, does not calculate, does not worry about control or perception or what this will cost her. She simply acts. Power explodes from her in a focused beam of silver light that incinerates the shadow creature mid-lunge. The blast is precise, controlled, devastating. Nothing like the unfocused explosion from the test. This is power wielded with absolute intention. The creature dissolves into smoke and ash, and the children scramble to safety. But more are coming. More creatures pouring from the forest in endless waves. More than any single wolf can handle. More than even the gathered warriors can hold back without coordination and strategy. They need a leader. Need someone to organize the defense. Need someone powerful enough to turn the tide. They need exactly what the prophecy promised them. Leora's wolf rises inside her chest, not timid or suppressed or afraid. Fully awake. Fully aware. Fully ready to claim what was always meant to be hers. She shifts, the transformation flowing through her like liquid moonlight. And when she stands on 4 legs in the center of the cracked platform, she is not the frightened girl trying to prove herself worthy. She is the white wolf of prophecy. And she is done apologizing for her power. Her howl splits the air, not a cry of pain or fear, but a call to arms. Pure and clear and carrying authority that resonates in the bones of every wolf present. The sound cuts through chaos, demands attention, compels response. And wolves respond. Not because she asked. Because something primal in them recognizes the call of a leader born, not made. She leaps from the platform into the fray, and where she moves, silver light follows. Her power flows through her like water, natural and devastating, no longer something to suppress, but something to wield. She cuts through shadow creatures with precision that comes from instinct rather than training, her wolf knowing exactly how to fight even when her human mind never learned. A creature lunges. She dodges and counters, her jaws closing on shadow flesh that dissolves under the touch of her inherent light. Another attacks from the side. She spins and releases a burst of power that disintegrates it before it can make contact. She is fast, strong, deadly. Everything the elders feared and everything the prophecy promised. And as she fights, something else awakens. Not just her power, but her voice. Not sound, but something deeper. Communication that bypasses words and speaks directly to the wolves around her. Form defensive clusters. Protect the vulnerable. Warriors to the front. Do not let them separate you, asterisk. The commands flow from her without conscious thought. Tactical knowledge she should not possess pouring through her like water through a broken dam. And wolves obey. Not because she demands. Because her instructions are right, clear, exactly what they need to survive. The chaos begins to organize. Defense becomes coordinated. What was a massacre becomes a battle. Eric's fights his way to her side, his massive wolf form moving in perfect synchronization with hers. Where she directs, he reinforces. Where she strikes, he protects. They move like they have fought together for years instead of never, the mate bond making them one unit with 2 bodies. Together, they are devastating. But the shadow creatures keep coming. Keep pouring from the forest in numbers that should be impossible. And Leora realizes they are not just attacking randomly. They are being directed. Controlled. Driven by intelligence rather than simple hunger. Her gaze sweeps the clearing, looking for the source, and finds it. At the forest's edge, barely visible in the shadows, stands a figure. Tall and cloaked, radiating power that feels wrong, corrupted, fundamentally opposed to everything wolves represent. This is not one of them. This is something else. Something ancient and malevolent and wearing wolf shape like a disguise. The source. The controller. The real threat. Leora does not hesitate. She charges toward it, power gathering around her like a storm, silver light building to blinding intensity. Eryx is right beside her, matching her pace, understanding her target without need for words. The shadow creatures move to intercept, but she burns through them, her power incinerating anything that gets close. She is unstoppable, inevitable, a force of nature given wolf form and singular purpose. The cloaked figure sees her coming and drops its disguise. What emerges is nightmare made flesh. A wolf shape twisted and corrupted, fur like oil, eyes burning with red malevolence, power radiating darkness that seems to swallow light. This is what happens when wolves reject the goddess, embrace corruption, trade their souls for power that destroys them from within. This is a void touched. A wolf who fell to darkness and became something that exists only to spread that corruption. And it is looking at Leora with hatred and hunger in equal measure. You are the prophesied one. The white wolf meant to unite them. The voice is like gravel and rot, wrong in fundamental ways. How fitting that I will destroy you before you can fulfill any destiny. Will prove that light always fails against true darkness. It lunges, faster than anything its size should be able to move, claws extended and dripping with corruption that would poison anything it touches. Leora meets the attack head-on. Their collision releases a shockwave that flattens everything within 20 feet. Light and darkness crash together in explosive conflict, neither giving ground, both pushing with everything they have. The void touched is strong, ancient, powerful beyond anything Leora has faced. But she is prophesied, chosen, marked by the goddess herself. And she refuses to fall. She pours more power into the fight, drawing from reserves she did not know she possessed. Silver light blazes brighter, hotter, burning away the darkness that tries to consume her. The mark on her chest, the crescent moon, flares with its own radiance, channeling divine energy through her mortal form. The void touch screams, a sound of fury and pain and disbelief. This was not supposed to happen. She was supposed to be weak, untrained, easily destroyed before she could become a real threat. But Leora is done being underestimated. She sinks her teeth into shadow flesh and floods it with light, pours her power directly into the corruption, burning it from the inside out, using the very connection it tried to forge to destroy her as a weapon to destroy it instead. The void touch thrashes, tries to break away, but she holds on with strength born of desperation and righteous fury. Holds on and burns and refuses to let go until the job is done. And then, with a final ear-splitting shriek, the creature disintegrates. Dissolves into ash and smoke and nothing, the corruption purged, the darkness banished. The moment it falls, the shadow creatures throughout the clearing collapse. Without their masters while driving them, they are just constructs of darkness with no purpose or power. They dissolve into smoke, leaving behind only the damage they caused and the wolves they injured. Silence falls across the clearing, heavy and absolute. Every wolf still standing turns to look at Leora. At the white wolf standing over the ashes of the void touched, her fur still glowing with silver light, her presence radiating power that no one can deny or dismiss. She just saved them. All of them. The territory leaders who judged her. The warriors who doubted her. The elders who feared her. She saved them because that is what she was meant to do. What the prophecy always said she would do. Unite the territories by becoming the thing they all need, but none of them wanted to accept. Slowly, Leora shifts back to human form. The transformation leaves her standing naked in the center of the battlefield, covered in blood and ash and the remnants of divine power, but she does not cower or try to hide. She stands straight, meets the eyes of the territory leaders, and when she speaks, her voice carries authority that has nothing to do with volume and everything to do with certainty. You tested me to prove I was dangerous. You were right. I am dangerous. To the darkness. To the corruption. To everything that threatens the wolves I was born to protect. You wanted to see if I could control my power. I just showed you that I can wield it to save your lives. She takes a step forward, and several wolves instinctively step back. The prophecy is real. The threat is real. And I am exactly who I was always meant to be. Not despite my power, but because of it. You can accept that and let me help you, or you can keep fighting among yourselves while the darkness picks you off one by one. But do not ever question again whether I am worthy. I just proved my worth in blood and light. The declaration hangs in the air, undeniable and absolute. Alpha Kira is the first to move. She shifts back to human form, her wounds still smoking but no longer bleeding, and does something that sends shockwaves through every wolf present. She kneels. Not in submission. In acknowledgement. In respect. In recognition of a truth she can no longer deny. The white wolf stands before us. Prophesied and proven. We doubted. We tested. We were wrong. And she saved us anyway. Her voice cracks with emotion that might be shame or gratitude or relief that they survived their own arrogance. I acknowledge Leora as the prophesied one, as the white wolf meant to unite the territories. And I pledge my territory support to whatever comes next. One by one, the other territory leaders kneel. Some reluctantly, some with obvious relief. But all of them bow before the girl they tried to break. The wolf they tried to prove was dangerous, the prophecy they wanted to deny. Only Elder Morna remains standing, her expression complicated and anguished. I was wrong. The words come out broken. I feared you because I did not understand. Tried to make you small because I could not handle your magnitude. And I almost cost us everything. Tears stream down the old woman's face. Forgive me, child. Forgive an old fool who confused protection with suppression. Who thought keeping you contained was keeping you safe, when really I was just keeping you from becoming who you were always meant to be. Leora looks at the woman who made her childhood a nightmare of shame and suppression. The woman who convinced her she was dangerous. Who taught her to hate the most fundamental part of herself. She should feel rage. Should feel vindication. Should enjoy this moment of being proven right after years of being told she was wrong. But all she feels is tired. And sad. And ready to let go of the pain. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it. But because I refuse to carry that weight anymore. I am not who you tried to make me. And I will not let your fear define me any longer. The words are liberation. Release. The final severing of chains she has carried for far too long. Eric's appears at her side, having shifted back to human form at some point. He wraps her in his cloak, covering her, warming her, anchoring her to the present moment. His hand finds hers and squeezes, pride and love and fierce protectiveness radiating through the bond. You are magnificent. He breathes the words against her temple. Absolutely magnificent. She leans into him, letting herself take comfort, letting herself be held after the battle. Because being strong does not mean standing alone. It means knowing when to accept support. Around them, the clearing begins the slow process of recovery. Tending wounds. Counting losses. Processing what just happened and what it means for the future. The territory leaders gather, their expressions ranging from shell-shocked to calculating as they begin to understand the implications. The prophecy is real. The white wolf is real. The threat is real. Everything has changed. Alpha Kira approaches Leora and Eric's, her posture respectful, her voice carrying genuine remorse. We owe you an apology. And our lives. The test it was wrong. Designed to break you rather than assess you. I take responsibility for that. We all do. She glances at the other leaders, who nod in grim agreement. But the question remains. What happens now? You have proven yourself. Proven the prophecy. But prophecy does not come with instruction manuals. How do we move forward? How do we unite territories that have been separate for generations? How do we fight a darkness we do not fully understand? Leora takes a breath, feeling the weight of leadership settling onto shoulders that were not ready for it, but will bear it anyway. Because that is what the prophecy demands. What the situation requires. What her power was meant for. We start by choosing to trust each other. By putting aside old conflicts and territorial disputes long enough to face the common threat. The void-touched I just killed was not alone. There will be more. And they will keep coming until we either stand together or fall separately. She looks at each leader in turn, meeting their eyes, letting them see her certainty. I do not have all the answers. Do not know exactly how to unite us or defeat the darkness. But I know we cannot do it divided. Cannot do it while fighting each other. So we start there. We choose unity. We choose cooperation. We choose to see each other as allies instead of threats. It sounds simple. It is anything but. Generations of territorial conflict do not disappear because of one battle. Trust is not built in moments, but in consistent action over time. But it is a start. And sometimes, a start is all you can ask for. The territory leaders exchange glances, silent communication passing between them. Then, slowly, they begin to nod. We will try. Alpha Kira's voice carries the weight of vow. We will choose to try. For our territories. For our people. For the future the prophecy promises if we are brave enough to claim it. The agreement is fragile. Uncertain. But it is real. And in this moment, standing in a clearing still smoking from battle, surrounded by wolves who doubted her and now kneel before her, Leora feels something shift inside her chest. She is not the broken girl who whispered her pain in the dark. She is not the suppressed wolf who spent years hiding her true nature. She is the white wolf of prophecy, the bridge between territories, the hope that will either save them all or watch them fall. And for the first time since destiny claimed her, she believes she might actually be enough for the task. Not because she is perfect. Not because she has all the answers. Not because she is fearless. But because she is willing to try. Willing to stand. Willing to fight for wolves who did not fight for her but need her anyway. That is what makes a leader. Not power. Not prophecy. But the willingness to carry the weight even when it is crushing. To stand even when falling would be easier. To hope even when despair is justified. Eric's hand tightens on hers, and through the bond, she feels his absolute faith. His unshakable belief that she will be exactly what they need. And surrounded by former enemies who are choosing to become allies, standing over the ashes of darkness she refused to let win, Leora allows herself to hope. Hope that maybe the prophecy was right. Hope that maybe she really can unite them. Hope that maybe being chosen was not a curse, but a gift she is finally ready to accept. The road ahead is long and dangerous and uncertain. More darkness waits. More battles loom. More challenges that will test everything she is and everything she can become. But she will not face them alone. She has a mate who sees her worth. Territory leaders who acknowledge her purpose. A power she no longer fears. And a destiny she is finally ready to claim. The white wolf has risen. And the territories will never be the same. The sun sets over the convergence point, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold that seem too beautiful for a place that witnessed so much violence, so much fear, so much transformation in the span of a single day. Leora stands at the edge of the clearing, wrapped in Eric's cloak, watching as the territory leaders organize their wolves for departure. Healers tend to the wounded. Warriors collect the fallen. And through it all, wolves keep glancing her way not with fear anymore, but with something more complicated. Uncertainty. The tentative beginning of trust that has not yet solidified into belief. She saved them. That is undeniable. But saving someone once does not erase a lifetime of conditioning that taught them to fear power like hers. Does not instantly transform suspicion into acceptance. Does not make unity easy just because it is necessary. The road ahead will be long. Difficult. Filled with setbacks and resistance and moments where the fragile alliance she helped forge will threaten to shatter under the weight of old grudges and territorial pride. But it is possible now. And yesterday it was not. That matters. That small shift from impossible to difficult, from hopeless to challenging, that is victory, even if it does not feel triumphant. Eric's approaches from behind, his arms sliding around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. He does not speak. Does not offer platitudes or empty reassurance. He simply holds her while she processes everything that happened, everything that changed, everything she became in the space between sunrise and sunset. Do you regret it? The question slips out quietly, vulnerability threading through her voice. Claiming me? Binding yourself to prophecy and politics and a mate who brings nothing but complication? She feels him smile against her hair, the gesture carrying warmth that seeps into her bones. I regret nothing. Would choose you again in every lifetime, every version of this story, every possible future. You are not a complication, Leora. You are the answer to a question I did not know I was asking. The missing piece I did not know I was searching for. The home I did not know I needed. His arms tighten, fierce and protective and absolutely certain. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Not because prophecy demands it, but because I choose you. Every single day I choose you. The vow settles into her heart like a promise the universe itself witnessed. And Leora realizes that this is what the prophecy was really about. Not just uniting territories or fighting darkness or fulfilling some cosmic destiny. It was about two impossibly lonely wolves finding each other in the exact moment they needed to be found. About being seen and chosen and loved not despite their brokenness, but including it. About discovering that the parts of themselves they were taught to hide were exactly the parts that made them perfect for each other. The rest, the power, the battles, the political alliances, those are just the stage on which the real story unfolds. A story about a girl who thought she was not enough and a king who thought he would always be alone. About how they found each other across the noise and chaos and fear. About how they chose each other when the entire world told them it was foolish. About how sometimes the most powerful magic is simply being brave enough to let yourself be loved. Alpha Kira approaches, her wounds bandaged, her expression carrying the weight of someone who has had their entire worldview shattered and is still picking up the pieces. We will be holding a formal council in 1 month. All territory leaders. To discuss strategy, resource sharing, coordinated defense against the void touched. We would be honored if you would attend. Both of you. Not as guests, but as integral members. As leaders in this alliance. The invitation is significant. A month ago, Leora was a nobody in a small pack, dismissed and overlooked. Now she is being invited to sit among territory leaders to help shape the future of their entire world. The transformation is dizzying, terrifying, and absolutely necessary. We will be there. Eric's answers for both of them, his voice carrying the authority of the Alpha King, but also the warmth of a mate who knows his partner's mind without needing to ask. We stand with the Alliance. Whatever comes, we face it together. Alpha Kira nods, relief and lingering uncertainty warring on her features. Then she does something unexpected. She reaches out and clasps Leora's hand, the gesture brief but genuine. Thank you. For saving us when you had every reason to let us fall. That is the mark of true leadership. Not power, but grace. She releases Leora's hand and steps back, bowing slightly before returning to her wolves. The other territory leaders follow throughout the evening, each approaching with their own version of apology and acknowledgement. Some are genuine, some are political. All of them recognize that the world shifted today, and they must shift with it or be left behind. By the time the last wolves depart, night has fallen completely. The clearing sits empty except for Leora and Eric's and the stars emerging overhead like witnesses to everything that unfolded. Leora tilts her head back, looking up at the moon full and luminous and impossibly bright. The same moon that marked her. That chose her. That set her on this path she never asked for but is learning to walk anyway. She thinks about the girl she was just days ago. The one who stood against a wall at a mating ceremony, her heart breaking, whispering a question she thought no one would hear. Why am I never enough? And she thinks about the answer that came. Not in words, but in action. In a stranger who heard her pain and refused to let her face it alone. In a bond that awakened in the exact moment she needed it most. In a prophecy that saw her worth even when she could not see it herself. She thinks about how sometimes the universe answers prayers we did not know we were speaking. How sometimes the thing we think will destroy us is actually the thing that will save us. How sometimes we have to break completely before we can be rebuilt into something stronger. She was not enough for Garrett. Was not enough for her pack. Was not enough for the small, safe life she thought she wanted. But she is enough for this. for prophecy and power and a destiny that requires every ounce of strength she possesses and then asks for more. She is enough for territories that need unity, for wolves who need hope, for darkness that needs to be fought. She is enough for a king who needs a queen, for a mate who needs an equal, for a bond that demands everything and gives everything in return. She is enough, has always been enough, was simply waiting for a world big enough to see it. Eric's hand finds hers in the darkness, their fingers lacing together with the ease of practice, with the certainty of fate. Ready to go home? The question carries weight beyond the simple words. Because home is not her packed territory anymore. Not the place that taught her to be small. Home is wherever he is. Wherever they build their future together. Wherever the prophecy leads and they choose to follow. Yes. Her answer is simple. Certain. I am ready. They shift together, the transformations flowing through them in synchronized beauty. White wolf and dark wolf. Moon and shadow. Prophecy and power. Two halves of a whole that the universe crafted specifically for this moment, this purpose, this love. And they run. Through the forest, beneath the stars, toward a future that is uncertain and dangerous and absolutely extraordinary. Together. But here is the question that matters most. The one that reaches beyond the story, beyond the clearing, beyond the prophecy and battles and mate bonds. The question that asks something of you. Would you have chosen her side? When the world called her dangerous, would you have seen her power instead? When the elders demanded she stay small, would you have encouraged her to grow? When the territory leaders tested her to break her, would you have stood in defense? Or would you have been one of the voices telling her she was too much, too dangerous, too different to deserve belonging? It is easy to celebrate her now. Now that she proved herself. Now that she saved them. Now that the prophecy validated what she always was. But what about before? What about when she was just a girl whispering pain into the darkness? What about when she had no proof, no power, no purpose beyond simply existing and hoping that might be enough? Would you have seen her worth then? Because the world is full of Leoras. People who carry power they have been taught to suppress. Who hide their true selves because the world told them their truth was too much. Who whisper questions in the dark, wondering why they are never enough, while the answer stands right in front of them if anyone would just look. Maybe you're Leora. Maybe you have spent your life being told to be smaller, quieter, less. Maybe you have hidden the parts of yourself that shine too bright because the people around you could not handle your magnitude. If that is you, hear this. You are not too much. You were never too much. You were simply surrounded by people too small to appreciate your enormity. Your power is not something to fear. It is something to claim. Your difference is not a flaw. It is your purpose. And the question you have been whispering, why am I never enough, as an answer, you are. You always have been. You were just waiting for a world brave enough to see it. Or maybe you're Eric's. Maybe you are the one who has everything and nothing. Who stands at the top but feels alone. Who wears a crown that isolates more than it elevates. Who is searching for someone who sees past the title to the person underneath. If that is you, know this. Your person exists. The one who will hear your pain across a crowded room. Who will recognize your loneliness because it mirrors their own. Who will choose you not for what you can give them, but for who you are when everything else is stripped away. Keep searching. Keep hoping. Keep showing up even when it feels futile. Because sometimes the universe is just waiting for the exact right moment to give you everything you need. This is what we do here. At Cindy's Wolfheart Stories. We tell tales about wolves and mates and prophecies and power. But underneath all of that, we tell stories about being human. About feeling broken and discovering you were never shattered, just being reshaped into something stronger. About questioning your worth and finding that the question itself was based on lies others told you. We tell stories about girls who whisper in the dark and kings who answer. About power that frightens and love that heals. About destinies that demand everything and give back even more. We tell stories that burn. That dig into the vulnerable places and say, asterisk, you are not alone. Your pain matters. Your story is worthy. And the thing you fear most about yourself might be the very thing that saves you, asterisk. If this story lit something inside you, if you saw yourself in Leora's pain or Eric's loneliness, or the impossible hope of being chosen when you feel most unworthy, then stay. Subscribe to Cindy's Wolfheart Stories. Because this is just the beginning. Leora's prophecy has awakened, but the darkness has only started to gather. The territories have agreed to try unity, but old grudges do not die easily. The void touched was destroyed, but it was not alone. There are more battles coming. More challenges. More moments where Leora will have to choose between the safety of hiding and the danger of standing in her full power. More moments where Eric's will have to balance being a king with being a mate. More moments where love and duty and destiny collide in ways that will test everything they are. And you will want to be here for all of it. You will want to witness the girl who was told she was not enough become the woman who saves them all. You will want to see the king who stood alone find his kingdom in the arms of the one person who truly sees him. You will want to watch as prophecy unfolds, not as some distant magical concept, but as the lived experience of two people choosing each other and choosing to fight for a future worth having. So subscribe. Join this pack. Become part of a community that believes power should be celebrated, not suppressed. That believes your story matters, even when the world tries to silence it. That believes in the transformative magic of being seen, being chosen, being loved exactly as you are. Hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell so you never miss when the next chapter unfolds. Because here at Cindy's Wolfheart Stories, we do not just tell tales. We ignite something inside you that refuses to be extinguished. We remind you that you are not too much. We show you that your worth was never in question, only your willingness to claim it. We prove that sometimes, the girl who whispers, "Why am I never enough?" is exactly the woman the world has been waiting for. Leora found her answer in a clearing filled with chaos, in the arms of a king who refused to let her fall, in a destiny that demanded she stop hiding and start burning. What is your answer? Who will you choose to be when the world tells you to be small? Will you suppress your power, or will you let it blaze? Will you whisper your pain into darkness, or will you roar it into light? Will you believe the lies others told you, or will you claim the truth destiny is offering? The choice is yours, just like it was always Leora's. And the best stories, the ones that matter, the ones that change us, those are the stories where we choose brave. Choose powerful. Choose to burn so brightly that the whole world has no choice but to see. Welcome to Cindy's Wolfheart Stories, where the wolves are fierce, the love is faded, and the girl who is never enough becomes the woman who is everything. This is just the beginning, and you do not want to miss what comes next. Subscribe now, because your story is waiting, and it is time to let it burn.